be happy. Santa's gonna come soon. I had an idea with Santa Claus in council, but Brian thought it was a really bad idea.
Okay, we're live.
I thought it was a great.
You were supposed
Good
to
afternoon,
cast.
everyone. I would like to call today's committee of the whole meeting to order. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it's located on Treaty 6 territory and Métis Nation Region Number 4. These are the traditional territories and ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples, including the Plains Cree First Nation, the Sinnewachee, Winnewak, Rocky Mountain First Nations, Stoney, Tsuut'ina, Nakota, the Nesuline, Saulteaux, Mountain Métis, Michif, and many other communities that continue to enrich the land on which the town of Hinton was established. With this sentiment, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Council, are there any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, administration, are there any changes to the agenda?
Just one, if we can move the closed session to after the reporting header instead of before the reporting header.
Okay, so we will move to closed session. Council? Motion, Councilor
Move
Laberge.
to accept the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Councilor Laberge. Council, any comments? All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried unanimously. So that brings us to our first matter, citizens minute with council. Administration, are there any citizens who would like to speak to it?
Yes, there is.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon,
If you could just state your name for the record and then you have the floor.
Dennis Howell. And big issue I have is live on Balsam Ave. We have what we assumed was a service lane in behind the house because all our utilities run in the back. And problem is you can't get a service vehicle back there to do anything. If we lose the transformer, I'm trying to figure out how they're going to get back there to fix it, to replace it. I saw the aerial photo, Gene had sent me an aerial photo of it, and it says utility right of way. Now, is that saying that that lane is the right of way? Or are they talking about the area of our lot that they take to put the utilities in? Now, I'm trying to find some clarity in that. Now, the lane has been there for, I've been in that place for over 35 years. It's been there all that time. And I know it was there before. I've even had before ATCO, they put a sensor just to the south of their station there, which blocks off that lane now. You can go in there with an ATV or a small truck like an Escort or something small. You can get in there with my one ton. I forget it, you'd never get it in a service vehicle, you'd never get it in. So what I'm trying to find is some clarity as to what do we do about that? How do we address this utility area that we can't get to? How do you take a man lift in there to service a transformer that is going? I've had before where the breaker on one went and they had to climb in there, and that was before ATCO put that sensor in. They were able to get there. Now, the other way used to be you could come around the golf course road at the back there, just go into the black golf course. That road's inaccessible now. People have gone back there and beat it up so bad that the culverts are now sticking up out of the road. So you can't really, how do you bring a vehicle back there for service? So that was the biggest thing that I had there. The other one was the fires that have been going on because since the development.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear the what? What was the first one?
Fires.
Fires, okay.
I've had fires back there that I've had to deal with myself. I've just gone and put them out. People have little campfires. Some of them I don't mind so much because one guy he built rocks around, had a fire there. The other day I spent 2 hours putting the fire out. They had lit right along where the brush pile had been pushed in from where they developed the golf course housing. Nobody's bothered to come and clean all the deadfall and brush up in back there. Before they did that, we had Fire Smart down there, and it was really nice. Now we have a fire hazard. They lit a fire right in there, and I spent 2 hours tearing it apart and putting it out. I called the fire department about it, and I got an answering machine. And I'm like, okay, since when do you not talk to a person? Then I was told, call 911. I've always been under the understanding that 911 is for an emergency. I tried to figure out why wasn't my call forward to somebody who could have directed it to the fire chief or deputy fire chief or somebody if there's an issue like that, a fire. I said, number one, you wouldn't get a fire truck back there. You'd have to have Addison come walking in with a backpack of water to work on the fire. But if we have anything big, how are we supposed to get a fire truck back there? That's my issue. I'm thinking about the whole neighborhood. And I like I said, I've put out 4 or 5 fires just this year alone. I haven't bothered to call because I go, you know, this little thing, I can handle it myself. I go back and I check it 2 hours later and whatever, and make sure it's out. And yeah, I'm not looking for praise or anything. I'm looking for answers as to what can we do about this. It was Greenland before, or whatever you call that. And then I guess we sold it to a developer back there when they went to do the golf course development. I don't know who all owns the land right in back there. When G&M was involved, Roger Schneider and I took it for a walk back there because it had been torn all out and burned. We stopped the burning because it was choking the neighborhood out. But all the sand and everything was blowing. And I talked to G&M. I said, what is that there? When I showed her the service thing because all the power flows. And she said, that doesn't exist. I said, it doesn't exist, but it's right there. It's been there for 30 years, 35 years that I know of myself personally. So, like once again, what I'm looking for is clarity on that. Can we find something to explain what's going on? Is there a service lane there or not? How are they supposed to get back? ATCO, TransAlta, AGT, or whatever the telephone, all of them, cable, all of them have their services all in the back. Not one of them can get back there with a man lift to do anything to go up the poles. The gas line issues I had there, I had to actually bury the main line. People who had the place before put in rail ties for retaining wall. And one day I looked out my back window and I could actually see the main line. So I added in a couple of ties and buried it. I assume those are supposed to be deeper. I've talked to ATCO, but I've got nowhere with them. So I thought, oh, next best thing is I'll bring this into council and see, can any of you, you know, give them a poke and say, hey, what are we doing here? Because I assume it's supposed to be 4 feet into the ground below the frost line.
Thank you very much for coming in today, Mr. Howell, and expressing your concerns and making council aware of them. I do have a question. Have you approached town administration with any of your concerns?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so that's likely the first step. Then we will make sure somebody from administration gets your contact information.
Okay.
It sounds like there's quite a few parties involved in to address some of the concerns that you have. So we'll turn it over to administration for now, and we can follow up with you, get a good handle on things, get a good understanding of the concerns, and maybe be able to rectify some of that for you. But we certainly do appreciate you coming in today to talk to us.
Well, thank you. I just, like I said, want to get some direction as to what's going on, see if we can't rectify some of the situations we have happening. Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, bye.
All right. Is there anyone else who would like to speak with council today? No? Okay. So that brings us to delegations and presentations. So the delegation, sorry, Ms. Howard, the delegation, we have Pine Valley Expansion Fundraising Team as a delegation. Are they going to come later in the agenda because it's that's important here?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
And my apologies, I don't know if you received the itinerary for the delegation. Sorry, it was probably given to Councilor Magoon, thinking that he was chairing.
Is it different than what's on the
No.
agenda?
No? Okay, Jen, thank you. Sorry, Jen.
Oh, that's fine. Okay, so then our first civic agency presentation tonight is from Foothills Recreation Management Association. I'm assuming that's you guys?
It is, I need something to move.
I'm coming right there.
So I'll start with just an introduction. I'm Erin Jones. I'm the management forester at West Fraser, and this is Brian Hicks. He's a planning forester there. I've looked after the recreation program for over 20 years, and Brian is just sort of moving into this role this year, so a little bit of a transition here. So next year you'll probably see Brian. So, so how can I make it bigger, or is that?
That's it. You'll
That's
just
it?
have
Okay.
to- Yeah,
So I have to go like this.
yeah, you'll just gotta scroll up and down.
Okay, so yeah, while I'm here, the town of Hinton is a partner in the Foothills Recreation Management Association, FIRMA, we call it for short. They've donated $20,000 every year since 2011, so that's 10 years now. Probably not all counselors are aware of this sort of unique project or partnership that we have, so I'm gonna spend a little bit of time just explaining that, but West Fraser is the managing partner of FRIA, and we manage, on behalf of FIRMA, 20 campgrounds and 8 trail systems. We also completed the new mountain bike trail in 2020, the Bighorn Trail, and that was in addition to all these campgrounds that we manage here, and that was almost a $500,000 project. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an update on that. Just to keep on wanting to click it. There we go. So yeah, we manage 28 rec sites, and all of the maintenance and operation of these sites are funded through this group that we call Foothills Recreation Management Association. There's all the campgrounds there that we look after, hard to see, but like Rock Lake is the biggest one, the McLeod campgrounds, Great Lake, Petite Lake, all of the campgrounds basically around here, except for the ones in Spitzer, we manage and operate. We're the one window manager with parks. So most of these campgrounds are managed under a partnership with parks. The only two that are just West Frasers are the Petite and the Great cabin. And like I said, we're the one window manager of the program, and that's Brian starting this year. So in 2011, the partners in FRIA or in FIRMA came together and they agreed as members to this terms of reference kind of mandate. And that's to provide safe, affordable, enjoyable recreation opportunities for the public in and around the communities of Hinton, Benson, Rob, Catamount, and Rural. To provide Indigenous employment, especially employment for Indigenous women. To provide the public with information about the partners' core business, like mining, tourism, forestry, that sort of thing. And to raise awareness with users and stakeholders in government that the partners here are committed to managing recreation opportunities sustainably. So the FIRMA partners, they provide funding to West Fraser. West Fraser enters into contracts with the parks, and we also manage 8 trail systems. We subcontract all of the maintenance operations of these campgrounds to Fox Creek. Fox Creek is an Indigenous-owned not-for-profit company here in Hinton, not in Fox Creek, which sometimes is confusing, but they're actually have an office down by 7-Eleven. And we make upgrades every year to campgrounds and trails based on priority. So funding partnership began in 2011. The partners have changed over the years, but just for site maintenance in 2021, these are the partners that we had. So we had Tech Coal for $20,000. West Fraser put in $135,000. Yellowhead County was 30. Town of Hinton was 20, and then campground revenue was around 200,000. So it's about a $400,000 a year program just to maintain it. That doesn't include any upgrade. Certainly doesn't include the Bighorn Trail, anything like that.
Is that Yellowhead contribution an annual contribution?
Yeah, it is since 2011. Yep. So just to give you an idea, like you can look and do the math, but campground revenue, $200,000, running the program, $400,000. So we subsidize it to the tune of about $200,000 every year.
Is there any sort of an ongoing discussion with the town of Edson to get them back on as a partner?
So we had them on for a couple of years.
Mr. Jones, sorry, did you want to you want to do the presentation and then questions, or
Doesn't matter
take
to me.
questions during?
Whatever you guys want.
Thank you,
During
Chair.
is fine, yep.
Yep.
Okay,
Sorry, Councillor LeBerge, go ahead.
I just, it was interesting that they backed out to zero. Any discussion with
No,
them? Was-
not really. They just sort of said that they didn't see it as something that they wanted to do anymore. I think council might have changed, I'm not sure, but yeah, they were in for $20,000 for 2 years and then they pulled out.
Thank you.
So like I said, as well as doing the operation maintenance, we also do improvements. Usually somewhere between $50,000 and $100,000 worth of improvements. Most of them are to provincial infrastructure, so it's actually provincial infrastructure that we're improving, not our own. So that all the benefit of that accrues to the province. But if we didn't do it, no one else would. So every year we do a plan and we implement it. We do a survey. We've done 4 since 2002. So about every 5 to 6 years. The last 2 we had this question because Yellowhead County asked us to put this question on the survey, and that was just of the people who we survey, how many of them stop in Edson or Hinton to purchase fuel or supplies. And it's right around the 60 to 70%, a little over 70 one time and about 65 the other time. So fairly significant.
How many people does that represent?
The survey, so the
No,
survey,
not the survey, but that come to visit the campgrounds.
this year we had about 13,800 paid overnight visits. And so if you times that by 3 or 4 or whatever, because that's about the average of people that we have staying on site. So that's fairly significant.
60,000.
So just looking forward, these are some of the things that we sort of run into is funding. We're hoping that Coalspur at one point might come in, but we've talked to them about it. Tech, who was a major contributor, is shutting down the mine, and its donation, I think this will be its last year, might go next year. They haven't decided yet, but we provide free firewood, and that is, of course, one of the things that people really like about this program, but it's also quite expensive. And when I'm talking about that $400,000 a year, that doesn't count the fact that that's 20 to 30 loads that we pay the logger to put to the side of the road, we have to pay a trucker to deliver, that sort of thing. And just as an aside, we built a new campground in 2020 on the Alexis First Nations Reserve down on the Cardinal River. So we partnered with them. We built it, we paid for it. It's about a $500,000 project, and it's a group campground that's primarily for them to use, and then there's a public campground for the public to use. And that was completed in 2020. That's a picture from the grand opening. And then just a quick update here on the Bighorn Trail. That's a picture right from the top of the ridge. It's a historic trail, so it's been here since the early 1900s. There's actually telegraph wire that you can see in places. It was a trail between where the Gray Cabin is and entrance. And so it sort of slowly declined in use and also in maintenance over the years until where it was hardly being used at all. And so we built a brand new trail up to the ridge, 12-kilometer trail. And then we upgraded the existing trail and turned it into a down trail. So now it's a 17-kilometer loop. And we've also, HIMBA, you're going to hear for it a little later, they've also funded construction of 3 trails within that bigger loop. And so one was completed last year and another one was just completed this year, and they have one still going. That was about a $500,000 project. And Yellowhead County donated 30,000 to that. And then the rest was just West Fraser. It had nothing to do with Firma. And so just some pictures. This is the beginning of the first trail that HIMBA built, the blow-down, flow-down trail. This is the up trail, about 80% of the way up, around 8 kilometers. So we have phase 2, which started in 2021, and that's now we're on the top of the ridge, and we're going to build the trail another 14 kilometers along the top of the ridge, and then it's going to go down to Coal Creek Road. So that'll make it a trail that you can now shuttle. So you can have a vehicle at one end, either end, and you can do it one way. So then I go there and go back. So
Does that Is that where the old trail used to be?
Well, it is where the old trail used to be, more or less. It's gonna be different because the grades are gonna be different. Like, so that it's gonna be more or less the same along the ridge, but once you go down to Cold Creek Road, it'll probably be more or less a new trail.
Okay.
And that'll make it about a 26, 27 kilometer trail one way. And once you get up on that Bighorn Ridge, the views are spectacular. So we also funded with HIMBA a consultant to do a master plan for the area that was completed in 2020. And that really helps with grant applications because the granting agencies can see that you actually have a really well developed nice plan and you know where you're going. So yeah, that copies of that are available too. So already this year, the trail just mainly for word of mouth is becoming popular. Like I go up there, I probably ride it at least once or twice a week, and I've seen people, big groups from Edmonton, and I've talked to them, and they're just like, "Yeah, we heard about it. That would come out. It's totally worth it." People are coming from Jasper, coming out here to ride our trails, which I think is pretty cool. And yeah, like I say there, I think it can only become more popular as the Ridge Trail is built there. So we've been working with HIMBA on this initiative, not imitative. And we're continuing to look for ways to get the town on board. So every year I come here and I say, hey, if the town wants to be involved in this in any way, like when this thing is done, we're gonna make brochures. We'd love to put the town logo on it, right? And I think a lot of the benefit of this is gonna accrue to the town because I do believe that this is gonna become a popular place like Valemont is right now. Like the people who ride Valemont see just as much potential here as they do there. And Valemont is a destination mountain bike place. So just the last slide there, summary there, just the FIRMA, this whole FIRMA thing is very innovative. There's nothing like it anywhere that I'm aware of where we have partners for funding recreation improvements. It's pretty cool, and we have the whole Indigenous aspect of it, where mainly the whole thing is run by this Indigenous company. We have this continual investment back into our infrastructure, and like I said, the Bighorn Trail there, I see that as a huge opportunity. I think that's it. That's the last slide.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for the presentation. I do have some questions from councilors. Councilor Hawes.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple of questions, actually. One in regards to what is the impact you've seen in regards to the off-site camping that the province with the $30 fee and stuff. Have you seen an impact on the usership of the campgrounds at all since then, or?
It's hard to say because we saw a huge spike in the use of our campgrounds in the last 2 years, but that's COVID related,
Okay.
right? Especially in 2020. We had a little less, we had about 13,000 in 2020, but that we didn't open our campgrounds until not till the middle of August. And we missed the long weekend. And we still have almost as many people as we did all this year. So it's hard to tell because COVID is making people sort of travel less and camp near home.
Okay. And if I may, just one more question. And I guess it's kind of twofold. What is the nightly, because you said you keep it cost effective. What is the nightly fee?
It's $15.
$15.
Okay.
15.
Yep.
And what is if you were to look at another site, say that's not in your organization, have you looked and compared what their nightly
Like in
fees are?
Jasper, you're looking at like, I don't know, have you camped in Jasper? You'd be looking at 20 to 30,
Okay.
like somewhere in there, like way more. Plus you get free firewood.
So that's I guess my question, and I appreciate the free firewood stuff, but I mean, eventually, in this day and age, it's tougher and tougher for it to be free. I'm just curious, did your surveys mention at all? Because I did a quick little, what is a bundle of firewood average, about $5. And I'm not sure how many nights that would be, but in your surveys, have you ever surveyed them? Like, would you be willing to, pay even if it's half the price of what a normal place would be to recoup some of the cost? Because I can see that that's a large cost.
Well, we've asked that exact question in our survey. So would you be willing to pay more for and not have the kit and not have the firewood for free?
Mm-hmm.
The trouble is, it's not a really good question to ask because we don't have really any way of providing firewood for sale. People who have firewood for sale, they have like infrastructure, gated, and they have people who are there full-time, like the way that we run this, we don't have people on sites full-time. And so it would be, you'd have to have people on there full-time to sell the firewood, and it just isn't feasible for us to do that. Yeah, it is expensive, and it's gotten more and more challenging, and I'd like to say that people don't steal it, but people steal it like left, right, and center. They somehow think that because you're a forest company that firewood just grows on trees, right? And but yeah, it is expensive. But it's well loved. People just love that.
Yeah.
Should probably reiterate that that's provided by West Ridge, not a firm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yep, thank you. Council, are there any other questions regarding the FERMA presentation? Okay,
Thank you very much.
seeing none, thank you guys.
Yep.
Appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Firewood comes from the trees, doesn't it?
Emerson, yeah.
I went to Rockland, we quite good.
That's all right. So that brings us to our second civic agency presentation for this afternoon, Performing Arts Society of Hinton.
Hello. Thanks so much.
Hi, guys.
Hi, guys. I can see you smiling.
Welcome. And so for anybody that's might be watching at home, you want to introduce yourselves before you start your presentation, just so everyone knows who's under the masks. That would be great.
That sounds good. I'm Denise Buchan. I'm the treasurer of the Home for Fine Arts, and this is Wendy Larilla. She's our facility manager for the Performing Arts Theater.
Great. So just get the presentation queued up. You guys have a presentation, I'm assuming. Yeah.
Kind of, yeah. Well, we're not. Are we gonna? Oh wait. Sorry, Denise. That's okay.
I like the logo.
We do too.
What's that? Is that a fire? Or?
That's the flame, just because we had with the being the fire hall, right? Like
Oh,
we
I
were
see.
going
Okay.
to ASH was our acronym or whatever, but it was all the flame, all that, because we were the fire hall side.
Denise, are you okay if I control the mouse?
Sure,
And then I
if
can bring
they
up your
don't
other
fall-
reports as you need?
If they don't follow in
Okay,
appropriate manner,
that's
it really
fine.
doesn't matter. I'm okay with waiting.
That's not like you.
It sure
is.
First of all, I just want to thank Mayor Michaels and council members and administration for the opportunity to present our 2020 appropriation request in person. So thank you. And again, I'm Denise Buchan. I'm the treasurer of our board, and our board manages the Performing Arts Theater, known as the PAC, nicely tucked into the West Fraser Field. Beside me is Wendy, obviously, again, our facility manager who works hard keeping our user groups, tenants, renters, volunteers, equipment, all running in sync to bring the theater experience to our community. Yeah, there we go. As we all know, COVID hit in March 2020, and we rallied several times to try to keep the different areas of our home open. We ended up offering window space for groups to display in our beautiful foyer for passersby to view. We invited pickleball to use the large theater space and mark the court out on the floor. Some tenants were able to use their rooms occasionally, but we eventually shut our doors and kept the facility closed due to the ever-changing gathering restrictions. You can see on the daily rental slide up there what happened up till August 20. We should have around 200 events in our facility. We managed to pull off 3 since the shutdown actually. That was like during the summer open for summer program that the Alberta government opened up for us. So But since adapting the Alberta Rec program, which the rest of Hinton has done also later this summer, YRAF was able to hold the annual Journey into Christmas event in late November, which showcases local talent. And Break Lake Theater was also able to bring their they were also able to stage their 2 junior play performances to almost sell out audiences this last weekend. So it was incredible. We know individuals are waiting patiently for venues to open and have to begin events. Hinton Movies has starting dates of December 27th, and we'll have 5 movies over the Christmas season, Christmas holiday. Going forward, they'll have their regular movie showings Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays again, sharing those weekends with the live performers also. We'll be splitting them up. Choir and dance performances have already been booked for the spring, so our rental day thing, we're keeping our fingers crossed and hoping that we go forward with almost as many rentals as we got in the 2018 and 2019 years. You can move that slide if you want to, Jen. We're cautiously projecting our revenues for 2022 year, as you can see with the budget document that I gave you guys all earlier. There's a lot of difference in what we think our revenue will be this year. We know things can change quickly and with the groups themselves and with COVID. So we're looking at the revenue side. You can see the forecasts are lower than what we've made in the past, but we're being very careful not to project that we'll make more money. And we've had a few of our user groups, like theaters, decided they usually have 4 events with us, and they're going 1 to the rec center and 1 to the Hinton Center, just because they need to have a larger venue or for an audience or for their staging. And we've also had one of our user groups, which is Hinton Performing Arts. They're kind of on hiatus right at the moment, but one of their members is going to help us assist Wendy in bringing more live performance and learning a little bit more how to deal with them. She's very good at it, and she's going to help us along the way. So again, we could probably move the slide. Our overall revenue streams have remained the same as in the past. These few slides will show like about movies and theater and video games and dance and things like that still coming into the facility. With our expenses, you may have noticed some differences with that budget document I gave you guys. But in the 2020 year, it was kind of like a holding pattern. But if you look at the 18 to 19 year, that's really where it shows what we actually use when we're not shut down. So that's why I shared a lot more information with you guys. You may notice that we didn't ask for an appropriation amount in 2020. You can move that, Jen, if you want. Some of the grants that we did get Alberta Cultural Spaces Fund, and we did not receive the Culture Days one. You can move it again. I'll just go back. You may have noticed that we didn't ask for an appropriation amount for 2021. We were pretty confident that we could manage, or we're at least willing to chance that we could survive on our own for 2021 and if our facility was going to be closed. We did utilize the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy to assist in keeping the manager paid and working, which was extremely helpful. Wendy did use some of this downtime to purchase our tech needs for the facility and secured that federal cultural spaces grant that we had to match. You can see we have a fairly healthy wage asset management account that we built over the 2018 to 2020 years. We've listed the value on one of the next slides. There's, oh, that's okay. We've listed the values of our bigger asset items that we care for in the facility on a slide lower down, right there. And the grand piano should have also been placed on this, but we feel confident that when our tech equipment reaches its projected lifespan, or we have a major upgrade required or an unexpected breakdown, that we'll have the funds to carry this out without putting extra burden on the town or asking for some money to help us keep the place open. So at this point, I guess I'm ready to ask for an appropriation amount of about $72,000 for the 2020, knowing that that's a bigger request than we've ever asked, than we asked for in 20 and 21. We'd like to remind you that this is a lower request than we'd asked for in 2018 and 2019. We will be working toward keeping our annual request between $55,000 and $70,000. That's talking to Hans and just our own feeling on how we're going forward with all of this. We think that's where we should be able to, and the lower end of it obviously is where we would rather be. Because I don't feel good asking you for the 72, but I know that that's kind of where we are. We have to help our user groups. I think this year are going to struggle a little bit more, so we're going to have to be a little bit more helpful in different ways. So if there's any questions, ask when you arrive. Probably went through it way too fast, but
All right, great. Thanks, guys. Council, any questions? Pause.
Not, I guess, really question. I just want to comment on the asset management thing. I really appreciate that. I guess the one thing that I kind of know that you probably may not know 3, 4, 5, but the projected potential cost of something, and this is what we've got saved up for, and versus what it might cost, just to give us a perspective, because I think this is great. I think, putting you're positioning yourself for the future, and these are all things that are going to need to be replaced at some point, but it just, I think, would be a little more than transparent to us too, just to see how well you guys are doing, because I have no idea what a projector potentially might cost you, or this, 54,000 might be a lot, it could be a little, I don't know.
yeah.
So that's
that-
one thing.
when we valued some of those are the values that those items were purchased at.
Mhm.
So we know that that is fairly close to what it's going to be. It could be another 5,000 more for a projector, or a sound system might be in that same range, a couple $1,000s different.
Mhm.
But at least, like, the projector, even at the way we feel right now, is that we've got that covered. And if we had to borrow money for 2 years, we've set ourselves up, that board has set themselves up with the bank to be able to have a small loan if we had to. I know that we've got the assets that are still technically the town's, but I'm sure that between everybody, we still feel confident that with that asset management, we would not have to ask you guys to sign anything or whatever, because the amount of money, which is, you can see 72,000 that's in our asset management account, would definitely cover anything, because you would get a trade-in, or you would get some kind of like, even with the projector being so much money, it would be a trade-in or an add to, like, there's components that you can replace on that, so.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I just really appreciate that. So.
Thank you, Councilor there.
That answered my question. I was curious with the asset management as well.
Okay,
You guys,
You have a question, Councilor Kaler?
Yeah.
Okay, put you in the queue. No,
I'm sorry.
here. I don't know if you guys noticed, Councilor Magoon's joining us via Zoom this afternoon. So Councilor Magoon has a question.
Hi, ladies. Thanks for coming in. The question I had was with the requisition that you're bringing to the table. If, worst case scenario, we're looking at another lockdown, or there's another stoppage in the ability to bring in events to the facility, do you think the requisition that you've put forward is enough to cover in those sort of circumstances? And I understand it's hard to plan for that. Yeah.
I feel very strongly, Council, that if we were on a lockdown situation, we would have way more than we needed. There's enough revenue there to hold and pay for all the events. Like, our expenses increase when we have more events in the facility. So, and I know there would probably at that point be a carry forward, which would then just go into the asset management or be used for the 2023 year. That's how we would operate it. So.
Great, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councilor Magoon. Councilor Kaler?
You pay utilities and town pays that.
in our lease agreement that we have with the town, and was part of that they take care of the facility.
Can I ask one more?
Mhm.
Seats can be a challenge for some segment of the population. Is there any way we can do anything with those?
In the seats compared to what? Like the width of them or the,
Uncomfortable for long periods of time for some people that sit there. Is there anything we can do with that?
my understanding there isn't.
Okay.
The seats were purchased not at the low end of the spectrum for the retractable seating. It was probably mid-range to higher, if I'm not mistaken, Laura. I think Hans and you were probably helping us or aware of some of that. We didn't pick them, but they didn't, they didn't go with the plush that goes into a theater anyway, but at least it was something that could retract. I know that we had some members that are, or some goers that do struggle with that, and so I would say the top right or the lower end where you can stretch out a little bit more. So it's something that we were unable to do anything about.
Thank you. Mayor Michaels?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ladies, the only thing I have to say is just a comment. I thank you for your creativity and whether it's looking for grants, offering so many, a huge variety of options of things to do. I hear it all the time from the community. I want to thank Councilor Race and her role on that board. Pickleball recently, I didn't even know that you guys did pickleball there until I got phone calls because you guys might start being busy and you might have to look at another location. But it was your creativity that offered services to the community that were greatly needed. And I love the out of the box thinking for that, because I would have never thought that you would have a pickleball court there. So
We didn't really
either
until
that
happened. We have such cool people on our board, and that's what helps us, because everybody's mixed up with a bunch of different people, and it's nice because it brings other opportunities.
Yeah.
You know?
So you've created a good problem for us, but we appreciate it because it serves the citizens, and it just shows that going 2 years without having to come to the town for any appropriations is commendable. So we appreciate that approach, and thanks for your presentation from my end.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. Councilor Haas?
Yeah, well, and just to speak to, the contacts that your board members have for that pickleball, Jan is, she's taking kind of the lead on that. It's great. And I think we also want to mention the safe walks too, that is no cost as well. And it's volunteers that actually volunteer their time to open those doors to open it to the safe walk is too. And to the volunteers of this program, the board members and others as well, is a big reason too that this all happens as well. So I just wanted to mention that. And I do want to just quickly apologize. You do have what I realize that's the cost. You don't have 217,000 in your bank, but that's the cost, and you got the 72.5. So I do apologize for that. I appreciate, but that's I just wanted to mention that. But yeah, the volunteers are amazing at that facility. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Race.
Thank you, sir. I just have to say it is an absolute pleasure being council rep to you. It truly is. To see the work that you guys put in, you don't just plan things, you wash the floor, you vacuum, you clean up popcorn, you do the bathrooms. You, as a board, as a committee, you pitch in and do it to get done. And I love that. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey, thank you for that, Councilor Race. Council, is there anything further? Okay, seeing nothing further from council, I want to take an opportunity to thank you guys for coming and presenting. And I'll leave you with a comment before you go. I always appreciate when Ash comes to present to council. I appreciate the clarity in the financial information that you guys provide. It's very clear, very understandable. And to echo what Mayor Michaels said, I also appreciate that that the requisition is only the amount that's required to keep the operations going. So I appreciate your financial responsibility too. So thank you for all of that and everything else you do.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Pleasure working with you.
Have a good day, everyone.
Have a good day, guys.
Bye.
All right, Just a minute to get the presentation station cleaned up a little bit. I don't think I rushed things last time, so I don't want to rush it this time.
Presentation from there or? I'll just do it from here. Yeah, this one's a shorter one.
Should ask you, I guess, is there, who's not presenting in person?
The last, so we have the next two are in person and then the last three are via Zoom.
So
in this box-
Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
Well,
Oh, yes, sorry, thank you. Yes, sorry.
Sorry, well, Zoom. Okay, so that brings us to our third civic agency presentation this evening. Hinton Golf Association.
Hello.
So we all know you guys, but if you could introduce yourselves, make sure that's part of your intro for people who might be watching at home.
I'm Jan Vaswat, president of the Hinton Disc Golf Association.
And I'm Tim Shane, the treasurer of the Hinton Disc Golf Association.
So I'll get right into it. Our purpose or goal is to promote outdoor active living through the sport of disc golf. We believe that by providing a safe and accessible environment to practice the sport of disc golf, we are encouraging people of all ages and athletic ability to be active members of our community. One of the key things about our sport is that it's really cheap and really accessible. Pretty much anyone can go out there and play. There's no charge at all. So getting into successes for the last year. Obviously, the big one for us was getting that new parking lot built for HIMBA and for us and for all trail users. We got a lot of people loving that parking lot. It was full a lot, which I think surprised people that that big parking lot was full. So very handy. The new park agreement that brings us here tonight. That we're certainly liking that. It's going to help us out immensely for sure. The first ever HDGA sanctioned tournament got rave reviews from over 70 people across from Alberta and BC. Everyone was really impressed at how much the course had cleaned up and was looking a lot better. So that was nice to hear. The most members we've ever had, over 170 paid members. That was almost 1/3 more than what we've had in the past. And just a huge increase in the amount of people playing. I'm sure COVID had a part to play in that, but I think just being free and easy to play was responsible for that. We finally, after years of trying, we finally got a league night to happen. We've tried every year with no success until finally this year we had around 25 people in it, and it was very popular. And just small little, like we got a new practice basket and a new UC can. That's a bigger one for us because it lets us have a place to store our lawnmowers, brush saws, and all that kind of stuff. Challenges, well, conversely, is getting that parking lot finished. It took a lot of work, working with various groups and stuff, a lot of communication. So it was good fun to get that done, but it was some work. I'm not sure if you hear it from other groups, but I know in my past experience, we are an example of a sport that we have a small number of key volunteers that do a lot of work, but we could use more volunteers. It's hard to get. We have a lot of ideas on how to improve it, and we have a lot of people coming to us with great ideas on what we should do. But when we say, okay, we need help, then they kind of walk away. So that is a challenge, but that's where the park agreement is going to come in handy. It's just to give us a little bit of money to tide us over. So Tim is going to give you a brief overview of last year's budget.
Sure. So this budget and financial information that we prepared, it's for like the calendar year. So I had to pull numbers from different years because our year end is the end of March. But we had just over $2,000 in memberships. If you buy online, which is 95% of the people, it's $11 for a single and $21 for a family. Sponsorship and donation, there is about $1,000 worth of cash sponsorship. So that was people who bought things for our club or were going to, I don't know, they helped us out and then they gave us cash to cover kind of what it was that they wanted to do. And then we have about $1,000 of in-kind, either sponsorship or donations. There was $5,150 from the Town of Hinton operating grant. That's the new one that we just signed. And then the community grant, that's for the CCAN. So on our books, we've used up about 3/4 of that money, and we're just waiting to get a couple of in-kind things in place, and then we can sign off on that grant. So our total revenue is about $11,000. This revenue does not include any kind of volunteer labor. Okay, just to make that clear. So hopefully for next year, we can have something in there. And our expenses, we had about $100 in admin, $133 in fees. That's like bank fees and all that stuff. Our main, really our main expense, operating expense is the insurance. From last year there with the operating grant, yeah, you can see it's about $2,000 a year or more. We did $4,600 worth of course maintenance. That doesn't include any of the in-kind stuff when people come and rate or we have work fees and stuff. Realistically, that number we could easily spend $6,000 a year, easy. CCAN purchase and prep, so $3,300. In theory, half of that was the operating grant and half of that was us. Marketing, signage and stickers. Sometimes somebody kicks a sign or something gets broken or whatever. So we have to do that. And we spent $47 on the tournament. Just to explain about that, the tournament was completely run by another organization, people who do it. And so the $47 was just our miscellaneous expenses. They came, they did everything, and they took the money, I guess, but it was great because we didn't have to do anything. So it was really good. We're really happy for that. So I mean, the budget is more or less balanced, give or take $400.
I see we're over, so I'll try to move swiftly. We don't have major events for next year, just your basic AGM work fees and the second annual disc tournament. I kind of would like to have an end of the year fun tournament with a barbecue, that kind of stuff, but we'll see what happens. We do have plans to build another 9 holes, so maybe next year we'll start actually laying stuff like that out. We'll quickly go over next year's budget.
Sure thing. So I mean, it's just basically based on what I threw together for 2021. The coursework maintenance and the insurance, that's the vast majority of our expenses. We've got a couple of pieces of the CCAN project lined up for some in-kind donations. That's what the $2,000 would be. We revamped our sponsorship program, so we'll have to be getting some new sponsorship signs. Essentially, that's bumper stickers on the basket or signage at the tee, so people can either sponsor a tee or a basket or the whole thing. But we pay for producing all of those materials. I just threw $100 in for the tournament because there was some miscellaneous expenses. And on the revenue side, memberships, sponsorships, donations, that is part of our sponsorship renewal program. So we put in place a sponsorship program with a time frame so that in the future, the operating funds keep rolling in. There's the capital fund, which is the ask for next year out of the capital grant portion of the town operating fund. And then there's $732 that we haven't used yet from the CCAN grant. So it's roughly a more or less balanced budget for around $12,000.
So cutting to the chase, funding request, in terms of the capital funding, we're allocated $5,000 per year. What we're asking for is $1,000 that we're gonna use to buy 4 new benches to put on the course. And then we're asking for the remainder $4,000 to be put in a disc golf reserve for future projects. And I can tell you that that future project is gonna be building another 9 holes, which are really badly needed because the course is already full. So that's it, I think, for us. Any questions?
Awesome. Okay, thanks, guys. Appreciate that. I do have a couple questions. I have Councilor Haas first and then Councilor Adair.
Yeah, well, one of them was already asked, but I guess it's a follow-up question. I was curious on that there was no revenue from the tournament, but you've asked that question already, because I was wondering how we put that on for free. But is it typical that, you know, the group comes in and there's no, like, to the hosting at least course, like with the wear and tear and everything that needs it, that there's not at least a percentage of the funds? Is that not?
I don't know, they kind of do all the work, they set everything up online,
So-
they,
We can do it. We can do it ourselves, but this year, because no one had ever done it before,
Okay,
they said, we'll come in and do it and we'll train you guys. Now, when they left, they said, we can continue doing this
Mhm.
if you want. So I think this year, Jared Madsen was the gentleman on that, and we're gonna see how it goes, but they run a whole series of tournaments across Alberta, and it's a lot of work for them. And so I thought exactly what you did, and I even said it to Jared, but we both decided like, hey, they're doing all this work, including a ton of prizes, like just ridiculous amount of prizes. So we were like, if it brings people to the course and lets them see the course, and then hopefully they'll come back.
so they follow. I appreciate that, and it does get them coming in here, but it's good to know that maybe in the future it might be something that our community
it did also make it super easy for us.
Right.
Because we just kind of made a phone call.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Councilor Adair.
So, membership fees, sort of $11 per, that's volunteer to pay. There's no, you gotta have membership to use the course, or that's just help us out to pay. So,
Help us out to pay for gas and stuff like that.
That's
Also, it's my experience that just having that, paying that $10 makes the people feel like they're part of a community.
sure.
So, yeah.
For sure. And even lots of people too, you know, you'll meet them on the course, they're from out of town, they're stopping, they're playing. As soon as they find out that there's a membership, they want to buy one because they want to support.
Councilor Taylor.
170 members, but what kind of use do you get? Number of people? Do you have any idea about that?
We had a trail counter up for, it broke down for about a month and a half, and we had over 1,600 people go through.
In 6 weeks.
So, I mean, to answer your question, no, I don't have an exact number, but our guest book for the year, it was like over 4,000 people. And that's a sign-in book, and that, I mean, they don't have to use that.
No. How many of them are out of town?
I can't tell you, but a significant amount. But I have been thinking, we have to figure out ways to capture that stuff.
For sure, yeah, there are a lot of people that will stop because it's very convenient and it's an easy thing to do. Whatever, have kids or whatever, I usually tell people it's slightly more complicated than going for a walk, but that's basically what it is. And it is a great way to visit, and regular people who are members, like people who are in the league night, they'll play like 3-4 times.
They'll play 2 times a day.
Yeah.
Like we'll have people that go and play in the morning and then they play in the afternoon.
Some people.
Like when you look at the physical sign-in book, which because of COVID, we could finally put out again, we got people from all over the world playing at it, so.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're familiar or not, but I mean, there are quite high levels of in the sport, I guess, within the sport with professional disc golf, etc. So there are lots of people who are very interested in it.
Council? Further questions, comments?
Right on.
Seeing none, then thank you guys very
Okay,
much
thank
for
you.
coming
Thank
and
you.
presenting tonight.
Thank you.
Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, like your sweater, by the way. Didn't say we.
Yeah, the Christmas idea. Really have to come to
When we're good.
I hate paying for the whole of the students' college.
Yeah.
Oh, do you? Yes, because that's everybody's coming and going. Yeah.
Miss an opportunity to wave at your fiance.
I'm waving at Ryan.
Oh, your fan, singular.
I feel sorry for him. He's all by himself there. Oh,
Okay.
yeah, there's a dog.
That brings us to our fourth civic agency, Hinton Mountain Bike Association.
We're talking.
Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So when you do your introduction, just make sure you introduce yourselves so everybody knows who's behind the mask and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it wasn't my wife that hit me, actually. It wasn't that. I would- Yeah, well, thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council, for meeting with us, and allowing us to do this update. My name is Mike Moore. I'm with I'm the vice president of the club. And this is Marisa Wright, who's our treasurer. She's the brains of the operation. So, yeah, we just want to give you an update of what we've been doing in the last year here now. I think most of you are pretty familiar with who we are and what we do. But our mission is to provide and maintain trails that have with free access and multi-purpose trails, I should say. We have a lot of walkers and movement as well, but mainly mountain bike trails and facilities for use by the public. And it's all provided as a free service. We also use our facilities and our other resources to promote local mountain bike events and other activities for community participation and healthy recreation in our community. So a little bit about some of the successful things we've managed to do this year. The bike park itself, we've put quite a large expansion on it this year. We've added 1,700 meters of brand new trails and jump lines and interesting features for people to work with that go beyond where our bike park was before and allows our local people and people who come to visit to go further into building their skills than what we had before. We've had a very successful expansion of the parking lots. We were always out of space in a parking lot, but now with the new parking lot on the east side of the road.
I just want to add that those two new successes we had this year, it's part of it because of the town of Vinton and also because of the memo about understanding that we had with Trans Mountain. So it's all the money and it's in partnership with the disc golf as well for for the parking lot. So if we didn't have the money from the pipeline, I'm not sure we could have done all that this year.
Yeah, it was very timely and added a lot to our ability to build all that extra trail and the parking lot as well. This year we had, well, the previous year, we didn't have our Spot Kids program, but because of COVID, but this year we were able to get the Spot Kids program back up and running again, and it's a very successful program. I don't know how many kids do we have.
60, yeah, around 60 kids.
around 60 kids, and they range from ages of very, very young, like 3-4-year-olds up to whatever,
Like 12, about 12.
about 12 years old. Learning, they're getting skills and learning how to be mountain bikers. We've done quite a large expansion on the Bighorn Ridge. So the Bighorn Ridge, the main trail that goes up that called Stairway to Heaven, of course, that was built by West Fraser. Last year we built this flow down, which is a downhill trail that comes off of it. And this year we added another 1,345 meters of downhill flow trail on top of that, two that now connect together and give quite an exciting downhill experience for people that are willing to pedal up that far to get the downhill. One of the things I thought was worth mentioning as a success is that I ride a lot and I ride our trails and our bike park, and I'm constantly running into people from out of town. I mean, we bring a lot of people into town, from Edmonton, Whitewater, Dayton Valley, all over the countryside. They come to ride in our bike park and our trail system that we've got. This year we had some challenges. Of course, we're all challenged with COVID-19. Some of the programs that we like to have that we didn't have. The pipeline construction ended up going kind of right through the middle of our main trail system. So that was a bit of a disruption to our whole Happy Creek trail system, although there was ways around it. It was not simple for somebody that didn't know their way to be able to get in there. And then also we did a lot of extra expansion on the bike park itself, and that caused some disruption in the bike park that affected our ridership somewhat this year. A little bit about our financial state. Our revenues for the year, we had between some donations and memberships, we brought in about $10,000. Our Sprout Kids program brought in $1,100, and then our Bighorn Ridge project that we had money that came in to do that was there was another $14,000 there. So our total revenue that came in was $25,100. And then our expenses side of things, the bike park maintenance part of things itself ended up being about $19,300. Our operations, which is insurance, and our two vehicles, our Silvio and our Rokon, registrations and insurance for those was $6,600. Sprout Kids cost was $1,100, and then this Bighorn Ridge downhill trail expansion that we did this year was $48,500, which came to a total expense of $75,500. And although that shows a net loss of about $50,000, that's on a cash basis. We're going to end up the year with $50,000 in the bank, which includes $30,000 that we have allocated to do some more trail building up on the Bighorn Ridge next year. So our two downhill flow trails that we have now are classified as blue trails. Now we're going to build further up another trail that will be a black diamond. So more for advanced riders.
Yeah, and the money we already got is like from different donator that we just didn't spend right away for the Bighorn, but it's all like track and yeah.
So a little bit about what we've got planned in for 2022. We're planning our Growler fat bike race, which has been successful over the years, for February 12th.
This is cool. We didn't say the date yet. It's the first time.
We're also planning a 1 week summer camp for kids. And I think there's a bit of an adult program in there too, isn't there? for that?
Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
probably have one day for adult.
So that's going to be in early July. And again, to build more skills and get people better at riding all these great things that we have in the bike park so they can ride it better and more safely. And then as I mentioned, we're going to build another technical trail up on the Bighorn Ridge, which is going to be advanced Black Diamond Trail. We're also planning to run our Sprout Kids program again this year. So our budget for 2022, we're planning on between donations and membership about $14,000. Our stock kids will probably grow some more this year. We'll be in the neighborhood of about $1,500. Between our growler race and the summer camp that we're planning to run, we're looking at about $6,500. Our capital requisition for the town of Hinton will be $17,500. And then for our maintenance side of things, we are looking at $25,000 for that. On the expense side of things, insurance, like everything, will be going up somewhere in the neighborhood of 14.8. The Bighorn project, the Black Diamond Trail that we're building, will be a $30,000 build. Sprout Kids will be about $1,200, about $6,000 for the growler and the summer camp. And then the new builds that we've done in the bike park, we know are going to take some special maintenance for their first year. So we're expecting that to be something in the neighborhood of 17,500. Because all of them, they will all settle somewhat and need extra work that needs to be done to them, which will run in the neighborhood of about 17,500. And then the bike park maintenance that we've always had towns so graciously help pay for us. We're looking at needing $25,000 for that as things grow and get bigger. It's costing us more and more to do the annual maintenance there. So we're looking at a total of about $94,500. And as I mentioned, we are asking the town to up our maintenance allowance to the $25,000, and so that we can keep up with, we have competitors, like Coat's got a bike park, there's several bike parks around. We want, and Edson has quite a good bike park. We want to keep being the best that there is. And in order to do that, we're going to have to keep doing more and more stuff every year. So we're looking at about asking for a $10,000 capital reserve that we can have kept aside for us to be able to do things in the future as time comes along. That's about it for now. Questions? Please.
Great, well, thank you guys for the presentation. I do have a couple questions in queue already, so we'll go to Councillor Haas first.
Thank you for your presentation. I guess I'm just curious on the 2021 financials. I'm not seeing anything. I see donations and memberships and stuff, but any grants potentially, and I realize you have some capital projects that you got in mind. Have you looked into possible grant possibilities that are coming to apply for those projects?
Yeah, I think Casey was working on something.
Casey is working on it. There's nothing at the moment that I know we're getting, but she has been looking and trying to get some each time she could, yeah.
Okay. And if I may, but in 2021, there was no grants at all that were available, or?
The grant we got, it's Yellowhead County, the $14,000 that the revenue we got is mainly Yellowhead County and its grant.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
We've had a couple of local organizations that have, or companies that have donated to us as well that we go into that.
in the donation.
Yeah.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor next.
You got 17,500 for a capital requisition in 2022 budget. And then on your funding request for 2022, you got $10,000 for capital reserve.
It's two different things. The 17 we're asking is already the money that is already in the reserve in the town that we want to take to pay the maintenance.
The town has been setting aside a reserve for us every year. Is that what
Everyone
I'm saying?
use part of it. And the 10,000 is the money we would like the town to put aside for us every year.
For the future. We're not asking necessarily to have that for this coming year, but to have that set aside so that 2 years from now or 3 years from now, we'll have a little fund built up of $20,000 or $30,000 that we can use to put in more.
Match grant or matching grant.
Continue to grow the park and keep improving it.
No, I have more questions.
It's like anything else, if it's stagnant and it doesn't change and nothing improves, people get tired of it, right? They go on to somewhere else. We want to keep growing and expanding and building and making things better so that people will be encouraged to call us the #1 destination for mountain biking here in Alberta.
If it's unrelated, I'll put you back in the queue.
Sure.
Okay. Mayor Michaels, Councillor Race, and then Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thanks again for the presentation, for providing or operating one of our best assets in our community. I really appreciate it. My question, I guess, is what does 2023-24 look like when it comes to funding from the town of Hinton? And it begs the question that I think we have a current MOU with you that provides that $7,500 every year. Has there been any thought in if this is going to go past 2022 to look at a long-term agreement with us? Any thoughts from your perspective on that?
We would like to see a 3-year agreement with you. That's what we've been talking about. If that would be possible. Other than an annual year-to-year agreement, it'd be good to get a.
It's always last minute, the annually. So if I have 3 years, it would be, I think, best work for everyone.
I know there's been the draft is, I don't know if it's been signed yet or not, but I've seen the draft of the agreement for this year. We'd like to, in the future, be able to get a 3-year agreement that we can all, count on knowing where we're at, more than just 1 year at a time, because this is a future thing that's going to keep growing, and mountain biking is growing like crazy everywhere. And I think we've got a pretty good corner on the market here in Alberta right now.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Yep. Just before we move on, I would like some additional information regarding Mayor Michael's question. I didn't see it anywhere in here, but what was the 2021 and previous year's contribution from the town of Hinton?
It's been 15,000 and every year increased by 2%. So for 2021, it was 15,600. The reason you don't see it as a revenue is that we got the money in February or March 2021. So that was in my previous financial year. So yeah, 15,600.
Okay, appreciate that clarity. Thank you.
Because we are reporting on a cash basis, that's why it doesn't show up in there.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have to tell you, it's so nice to meet you and put a face to a name. It's very nice. So your capital ask of $10,000, do you have any specific capital projects in mind?
Not right now.
You don't?
No, with the huge expansion that we did this year, which was really very huge. We've not said, okay, we want to do something else next year, but this capital allowance that we're asking for is so 2 years from now or 3 years from now, we've got something in reserve to be able to do that.
The current one is 7,000. So we're just asking a bit more, just for, again, it's mainly for grant matching grant later on, but yeah, right now there's no project for the bike park.
Oh, okay.
But we have like this master plan that as soon as we get the money, we just pick one project and let's just do it. We're
And
ready.
I do have a follow-up, please. Another thing, the $25,000 for the bike park maintenance. So if you did a really big clean up this year in the park, would that tide us over for next year where we wouldn't see a $25,000 ask to do park maintenance?
I think the park maintenance is pretty much an ongoing thing, you know, all these dirt things settle. And, you know, from riding them a lot, they get rounded off and stuff. There's a lot of wooden features in the park that get some boards that are getting rotten or less safe that we have to replace. And there's always some work to do in the pump track. And, you know, it's an ongoing process.
Yeah, like every year, from the 15,000 we get from the town, we spend more with Hoots. And that's because Hoots also lowers invoice. Like he give us some in kind, he gives some kind of volunteer hours on his end. And even though he does that, we still have to spend more money than what we get from the town. Because there's a lot of maintenance to do. And people walking and biking in the spring, even though we ask them to not, like it doesn't help. There's just a lot of factors that also increase the cost of maintenance.
Yeah, people get in there too early and make ruts and you know, and one of the things like Marie said, that, you know, the thing we've been really fortunate about over the years that we've had a relationship with this Hoots Incorporated, they've been doing the building in there, is they have treated us really well. They, you know, we were kind of one of their first big projects, and you know, they've got roots in this town, and they've always given us an exceptional rate on the work that they do, much less than other people pay. Plus, on top of that, usually donating some in-kind time and materials and so on as well. Whether we can count on that lasting forever, I don't know, but it has been traditionally what they've done for us and with us.
So did you say we are the best and you want to continue that?
Sorry?
You said we are the best and you want to continue that?
Exactly.
You said that, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you, too.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Taylor?
You have any two questions kind of related. Do you have any stats on the number of users and how many people are from out of town? Or is there a way to collect that? And could that information be used? I don't know how aggressive your donation program is. So a lot of people coming from out of town, a lot of those businesses that are benefiting from that, could they, are they being asked for sponsorship?
I think the answer to your first question is we don't have any actual like statistics that way. We have a sign-in book.
Oh, I have more, but I'm trying to.
We have a sign-in book, you know, in the entrance to the bike park, and a lot of people sign it, but you know, not everybody does, for sure.
But we have also trail counters on our main major trails. So I can't tell you if they are out or in town. From like, I mean, people from town or not. So as per the log and like the writing and we have a QR code as well. Half of the people that signed were out of town and the other half were from town. And we're talking about like 3,000 to 5,000 passing during the summer on certain trails. Yeah.
And the second part of the question?
It's a good question.
Like, do you aggressively go around and ask for donations from people who might benefit from having these out of towners in town, like some of the restaurants or the motels, and say, hey, give us $500, a lot of our people stay at your place?
No, we have not aggressively done that, at least not in recent times.
We've been doing it when we have events. like the Beaver Bike Fest and the Growler, like that kind of stuff, will go and get
Funding for
money, but not for the actual everyday like operation.
One of the things that a lot of our community organizations do in our membership, which is a pretty low cost membership, there's a whole host of organizations in town that give discounts if you show your little HIMLA card. You know, a lot of them give 10% off, some are even 15%. It pays for your membership in like a couple of trips to some of these places. So, you know, we get a lot of support that way, and it encourages people to buy memberships. But, yeah. You know, we've kicked around some other programs that we may do this summer. And if we do them, like maybe Beaver Bike Fest again, or something like that, you know, we would definitely be looking for sponsorship for those kinds of things.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Mayor Michaels?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going back to the requisition, I just, for clarity's purpose, because obviously our budget is coming up. So the $15,600 that the town receives, is the funding request of 35,000 above and beyond that, or is it the 35,000 and it'll still be the 15,600 on top of that?
No, that would be the
Okay.
25 would replace the 56.
It's including that.
Okay, so we're looking at a $9,400 increase plus 10,000 to capital is the above ask from previous year.
Well,
Just
and we
for
had the 7,000
Right.
capital before that, so we're asking for 3,000 more there,
Mhm.
and then $9,000 on top for the maintenance.
Okay. Okay, good, perfect. Thanks for that.
Thanks. We have Councillor O'Leary next.
Memberships, how many members?
I would say 260,
260? And what does it cost to be a member?
35 this
35,
year,
okay.
and 75 per family.
Good, that's it, Councillor O'Leary.
That is, thank you.
Okay. Council, anything further? Okay, seeing no further comments, or questions from council, I appreciate you guys coming in and presenting to us today. Always good to hear what HIMBA's up to.
Well, thank you. We appreciate the opportunity, and thank you to the town for all the support that you've given us over the years. And we really appreciate it. We've got an awesome facility there. It need to be awesome with your support. Thank you.
Perfect, thank
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Take care of your head.
Yeah, be careful on the way to your car.
Everybody asked me, did I do this skiing or did you do it mountain biking? No, I did it walking. I'm sorry.
You need help in the car?
See you guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah. I believe our next presentation is in the District Chamber of Commerce, and they are joining us by Zoom. We need any time to switch over or anything? Oh, I see them. Sorry. Sure, yeah. So before we get started with the chamber, are you guys gonna screen share to do your presentation, or was there any thought there?
Is that question for us?
Yes, that question's for you. Did you guys want to share your screen, or?
Yeah, we'll look
not
after
sure
sharing
how.
the screen. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So just make sure you introduce yourself so everybody who's watching knows who they're listening to, and anytime you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good evening, Your Worship and Council. My name is Natalie Charlton. I am the Executive Director of the Hinton District Chamber of Commerce. And with me today is Jax from JD Consulting. And we're going to talk a little bit today about visitor services. So we're just going to share our screen with you now. Okay. So we're going to talk today about the Explore Hinton Visitor Center. So the Hinton Chamber has been managing visitor services now for 10 plus years in the community. We've been providing employment for local summer students and creating an environment to visitors to our community. This next slide is to provide some of the history on our past funding with Travel Alberta. For some of you that are not aware, we received funding to operate visitor services through Travel Alberta to the tune of $77,000 a year. That partnership was canceled in January of 2020. And we then started a partnership with the town of Hinton to be able to provide this service. Explore Hinton was an initiative that was developed through COVID to provide visitor services remotely. I'll probably go through this slide as well. I just would like to talk a little bit about our marketing goals for 2021. Bringing different groups together to have certain discussions and talk about further developments of tourism. Goal 1 was the consultation that started with partnership groups. Goal 2 was to build a brand and increase an awareness of the Alberta Northern Rockies, starting with Hinton and area. Goal 3 was to lengthen the duration of stay in our area and educate visitors and businesses on what is available in our community. Goal 3 was to create a central conversion hub and a place where visitors can link all attractions, retail, restaurants, and hotel stays. Grant funding was applied by the Hinton Chamber in partnership with the town of Hinton to Travel Alberta in the amount of $63,000 to obtain these goals. Unfortunately, we were only successful in qualifying for $20,000 of the $63,000 ask. Then the collaborative marketing agreement with the town of Hinton was established to receive an additional $30,000 for a total marketing budget of $50,000. This marketing will continue to mid-March to include Winter Magic and some of our four-season events. This next slide is the monies that have been provided by the town of Hinton to provide visitor services in our community. I want to break this down a little bit for some of you that are maybe not aware. The $22,000 the first service agreement of $22,000 is a service agreement that has been in place with the town since 2011. This has been provided to the chamber to provide off-season services to visitors that come into the center in our non-peak months. These are consults that are provided by the Chamber of Commerce staff. We also look after creating the Hinton Visitors Guide and distribute it throughout the province, along with putting on 2 of our seasonal parades. The additional $31,000 is the monies that we went to the town of Hinton 2 years ago when we had our contract canceled by Travel Alberta. So we no longer had the funding to provide services in the peak summer months. So what we did is we've combined these together to have a total ask of $53,000 to provide visitor services year-round in the center. I did include the collaborative marketing line at the bottom just to kind of try to avoid some confusion, because these are 2 separate items. One is to provide visitor services, and the other one was to provide collaborative marketing in the community in partnership with the Travel Alberta grant funds received. I've asked Jax to come today just because I think that it's important that we talk about some of the successes from the collaborative marketing. And I'm maybe going to turn it over to Jax now, and she can talk a little bit about this next slide.
Absolutely. Thank you, Natalie. I think these numbers really speak for themselves, and I think that the foundation of Explore Hinton was set very nicely off at the very beginning. And in working with a local marketing company, you can see the difference with the collaboration and the funds that we were able to do with the collaborative marketing. So our numbers are increasing every single day. And we put together this slide a week ago. And since then, we've had 50,000 more people reached combined. So our posts are doing incredibly well right now. We've established a TikTok presence for our community, and the community has been really supportive. We've also done a lot of business exposure as well. So we've been doing business features with different businesses around town. I think that some of the successes in that are that we're really seeing locals finding these unique gems that they didn't know existed, and now becoming local ambassadors for these businesses that are reaching across Alberta. So here's some of the testimonials that we've seen, and you can see some of the posts. These are the ones that we're so proud of. We're proud of them all, but these are some gems. And we're reaching thousands upon thousands of people across Alberta. And this is just a really tiny segment of some of the comments that we're reaching. So you can see how proud people are that their community is on these social media platforms, as well as people not knowing that certain places exist, locals not knowing that these exist and going to visit them, and then again becoming those ambassadors, and then people saying how excited they are to move here. So we've been seeing a lot of success with this initiative, and we're just so proud to share it with you.
This next slide is the visitor center opened in a safe capacity on June 18th. So just an update of where we were at with COVID, and was staffed until September 7th. The chamber is now fully managed in the off season between our two staff members, which would be Natasha and myself. And just an update as to how many that we do have coming in the center. We did have 4 visitors today that came in. People are looking for information on winter camping maps. We've actually had some international travelers in today. So tourism is still live and well in our community, and we hope to keep it going all season. I also wanted to show the images in this slide that reflect some of the branding that we're hoping to maintain throughout the Explore Hinton within the center and for future marketing. So, you know, you'll start to see this theme throughout. This is a slide that I hold very dear to my heart. This is our staff. They've been trained in the center, and I just wanted to display that they don't stay just within the center. They're out in the community. You know, the top left slide is showing their trip to Jasper. You know, they experience some of the treasures that we have in our surrounding area personally, so that they can share those experiences with travelers. But they get out, they're always carrying Hinton visitor guides with them. They're constantly visiting with local travelers that just happen to be out. So I think it's great. They've been fantastic ambassadors for our community. This is some of the 2021 visitor figures. Just keeping in mind, this summer things opened up a little bit, so we were able to have the center fully open. 51% of the travelers stayed at least one night in Hinton. 30% of the total visitors requesting visitor services will stay in Hinton 2 or more nights. We would like this number to be a little bit higher, but I think that that's something, given the circumstances, that we can be very proud of. We had a total of 4,394 visitors come into the center this summer, and that would be from mid-June to mid-September. Again, come about August, we did have some international travelers starting to come into the center. Visitors typically are looking for hiking maps of the area, Beaver Boardwalk. Of course, park passes are always an asset, but places to eat and camp, disc golf rentals. I would say the #1 comment that we hear back from visitors is they are so pleasantly pleased that the experiences that they experience in our community are free. They can bring their families here and have a great vacation, and there isn't a big price tag attached to it. We continue to enhance our Explore Hinton website and are always trying to do updates. Right now, we're looking on some play and stay holidays and, you know, continue to create that 4-season experience. Future opportunities for growth. We continue to produce a high level of content, more to support and ensure initiatives continue to exist and grow. Would love to continue the momentum of the marketing that we've been doing throughout the community, and destination marketing organization. An update on this is that Explore Alberta Northern Rockies, referred to as ENR, has completed their terms of reference. ENR continues to meet once a month, and we are in the process of applying for the Tourism Relief Grant Fund in hopes to gain funds to operate the DMO. We are applying for grant funds for up to $500,000. So we've been meeting with a lot of local groups just to find out which groups and how we can best serve the grant application. And we hope to continue to increase our municipal and regional partnerships. Our ask today is to have continued financial support of $53,000 to offer visitor services year-round. I do invite council to have any questions.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for the presentation. I do have Councillor LaBerge in queue.
Well, a comment first. This is how good Jax is. She actually got me on TikTok this weekend. So. But the numbers are pretty impressive. The growth in the Explore Hinton project, but was there any of that tied to a visit where the online promotions got to be tied to a physical visit to the community?
Sorry, I'm not quite clear on the question, Councillor Labarde.
We have lots of impressions. We have lots of people looking at things. Was any of that tied back to a measurable on people coming to Hinton?
Well, I think probably the night stayed is what we have to reflect back to. I mean, we're starting to notice a theme where people used to come to Hinton, do a few side activities, and then head on to Jasper. But now we're starting to see that people are coming and they're spending nights in our hotel and turning some of those stays into 2- and 3-day holidays. And that's some of the marketing that we would like to continue on with some of our play and stay holidays. We've worked very closely with some of the local hotels, and we're trying to create some of and I'll speak to the season that we're heading into, is some of our winter activities, like how can we collaborate the Nordic Center or winter biking or winter hiking. We have a lot of people that come to our area to do ice fishing. We actually have a strong followers from even a trout community in Calgary that reach out and are asking questions. So I guess short answer would be yes, I feel that we are increasing our hotel nightly stays for visitors coming to Hinton.
And also, just to speak to that as well, we're really putting ourselves on the map. We're starting to see YouTubers come out, and just one this weekend actually came out, or sorry, last week. And he stayed behind our Hinton First sign, and he's had over 660,000 views on that in the last 11 days. So we've been featured on 3 different YouTube channels that have reached over 1 million people. And I really do believe that this marketing initiative is helping showcase us to people all across Canada.
Thank you.
Councillor Taylor?
The $30,000 for the marketing, how many video clips did that make?
Oh.
How is that going? Go ahead.
Well, when you say video clips, are you talking posts? Or are you talking actual videos?
Yeah, no, did we pay $30,000? How many actual videos did we get for that? Because I saw it on Facebook occasionally, right?
Yeah. Sorry,
Yep.
Go ahead, Jax.
I can speak to that. So we've done quite a few TikToks. So if those are the videos that you're referring to, we do videos on TikTok. We play them onto Facebook, Instagram. So the 30,000 wasn't just for videos. That was for an entire marketing plan that we're doing right now. So the videos are a portion of that for sure. But if I'm looking for you right now, I can actually pull that up and tell you. We just created one this morning as well, but 2 seconds and I'll tell you the answer.
And I might add that this marketing program will go until mid-March. So now we'll switch gears and focus again on some of our winter activities and again, promoting us as a four-season destination.
So in terms of TikTok videos, we've done 18 so far, and we've done 3 other videos. So for Small Business Week, we featured, I believe, over 30 different businesses in our community, and the number continues to grow. So we're about 2/3 of the way through the project right now, and we look forward to continuing with some more additional content.
Yeah, so I see these videos and they seem to work on Facebook for a few days and then they sort of, they get all these numbers here, but they're only temporary. Is there and your program only goes till March, then we run out of $30,000. Is there a way to repeatedly play these videos over time to keep using them?
I wouldn't focus too much on videos because this is an entire marketing plan, but I believe that anything on social media becomes a permanent ad. So it may be something that displays in your newsfeed for a couple of days, depending on your own personal algorithm and what your interests are. You speak to Facebook, which is probably what your demographic is looking at, but we're also reaching Instagram, which is a different demographic, and then TikTok is an even different demographic on top of that. So I would say that these ads live permanently. However, the more we put into them, the more we can leverage them. So even right now, I'll see a post that did really well and I'm turning it and creating some ads for it that it's displaying in different people's news feeds. And if you don't necessarily see it in your news feed, you might not be my target audience, because right now we're reaching people across Alberta. So some of my ads are reaching people in Calgary or Edmonton. So if you're not there, you might not see our post.
Well, and I might add as well that ultimately the desire is to push people to the Explore Hinton site. Then that way they can go more into depth of what really Hinton has to offer. That site was developed to even provide a virtual visitors experience. So I think that it's important that we take a look at all the different touch points that a visitor can have.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Ross?
Yeah, just to clarify, so the 2022 ask, Natalie, is the 53,000, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Ross, Councillor LaBerge?
I know that this was a conversation up front. Has there been any, as it relates to the center itself, any discussion with Yellowhead County in participating at all?
Yes, I've reached out to Yellowhead County 2 years in a row. During COVID, the response that I was given is that their supports have been supporting local businesses within the county, and that they didn't feel that they could support this initiative at this time.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. I had myself in queue too. My question's related to funding as well. Has there been any indication from the provincial government that there's going to be any funding available to replace the tourism funding that was canceled in whatever that was?
Yeah, no, not that I'm aware of. I'm not saying that it doesn't exist, but I've been researching grants quite heavily. I know that the federal government did come out with the Tourism Resiliency Fund, and we are actively pursuing that to apply for the full funds of the $500,000. If we are successful with that, a big part of what that will go towards is creating the DMO and the wish list. There is some criteria around there as to what the funds can be used for, and it does align.
So to follow up then, if that tourism resiliency grant funding is successful, it doesn't affect the ask of the town for the 53,000 though, correct?
That's correct. The Tourism Relief Fund does the criteria of operating a visitors information center is not allowable under the Tourism Relief grant. So it's laid out a little bit differently as to what is allowed and what is not. So in order for us to still be able to provide visitors information services here at the center, these are funds that we would be looking to get support from the town of Hinton. Our original support from Travel Alberta was $77,000, and even that was a tight fit. We did hope to get financial support from Yellowhead County when we put out our original ask. But we've kept the ask the same because we've been able to apply for some of the federal summer student funding, which offset some of our wages this summer, that still allowed this $53,000 to make $53,000 budget to make it work.
Great, thank you very much for that clarification. Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. Hello, Natalie. Hello, Jax. I want to move back to Councillor LaBerge's question in dealing with the county. So it's budget time and everybody's looking at their money. Have you given any consideration to, instead of a financial ask, how about developing a partnership with the county? Is that something you have considered?
Yes, and I have worked with Stefan Felsing in the past with the county, and he's a strong supporter of tourism. So I do think that that's something that we could take a look at, just to see what sort of model we could take that could create a partnership. And I will make that note because I think that that's a wonderful idea. And I do think that that's something that Yellowhead County would support.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Council. Okay, seeing no further comments, questions. I just want to thank you guys for coming and presenting to us today. We appreciate it and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Great. Bringing us now to our sixth civic agency presentation from the Hinton Golfing Society. This one's via Zoom too. So golfing lined up. Data and look forward to seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Good. So Ms. Randall, if they can't share their screen or they're not willing to, is there an option that we can share the presentation? Okay.
I'm not sure.
Kyle, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, we can't see you though.
Oh,
There you are. Part of you anyway.
pardon me. Yeah. I got two screens going, so I have to look at this one.
Kyle, will you be sharing your screen for your presentation or do you want me to share it on my end?
It doesn't matter. I can do it or you can do it, whatever is the easiest.
Okay, go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
Great, welcome. If you just want to introduce yourself so everybody knows who's presenting today. And whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
Okay, can you guys see my screen there?
Yes, we can.
Okay. My name's Kyle Crawford. I'm the general manager here at the Hinton Golf Club. Haven't quite been here for 2 years yet. That's coming up in February. So haven't been here too long. So I'll go right into the first slide. So here's our mission statement. Was the same last year as well. And it's to track and measure performance daily, striving to exceed all previous standards, rewarding the customer with an amazing golf course and service orientated facility. I kind of want to speak on that. What we're doing here, especially when we're measuring performance and we're collecting a lot of data that is going to be beneficial down the road. So we're getting locations of where our customers are coming from, who's using the restaurant, what happens when we give a free round of golf out. Do we get any money in return that's spent at the facility? So the things we are doing here, I think are going to help us down down the road once we even establish a better data in that for comparisons to year. So some of the challenges that we had for last year, especially the big one was the restaurant. Our restaurant went down for about 17 days to some labor issues and resulting in probably what we're estimating as minimum of a $30,000 loss in that category. The facility required about $7,500 upgrades to bring the facility to code. And what is in regards to that was the alarm system, the fire suppression system, and the fire alarm system. We got it all situated now, but that was a cost that we weren't anticipating on having last year. Golf course cart pass required attention, so we were able to do 1.5 cart pass at $12,500, and this is using 6 volunteers. So we estimate for a par 5 that it's gonna run us $12,000 for par 5, $9,000 for a par 4, and about $6,500 for a par 3. If you guys have played here, you notice that our cart paths are in very bad shape, and so we're trying to pick at that as much as we can. But again, you can see the cost associated with just a single cart path. We also had to hire a maintenance advisor for a spraying license. We lost our superintendent at the end of last year, and he was the one that has the license. Our current superintendent is going to school this year, which is only going to be about a $1,200 expense, but we're going to save on that $10,000. All of May, we were restricted to just households. Restrictions only allowed households and close contacts to dine and golf together. We aren't sure of how much money that actually lost in the month of May, because in 2020, we didn't start the golf season till about the middle of May due to COVID. So those numbers aren't quite there to figure out, yeah, that cost us 30 or 40,000. We don't know that number yet. So moving on to our expenses for last year, just over $1,550,000 was the total for expense. Probably what stands out to you guys is the pro shop expense being $614,000. So a couple things that cater to why that amount is so high. First of all, my wage went, because they only paid me because I started in February. So last year they paid me $57,000. This year went up to about just over $90,000. So that's a $35,000 increase. We did increase rounds of golf over the 3,000 mark, which in turn requires more staff to be on the premise. So you also saw a $26,000 increase in that. And then our cart lease, we deferred back in 2020, we deferred 3 payments due to COVID. So that increase was also $31,000 for a total of about $93,000 increase in that. And then the big one was that we actually got into the golf club business. That's where you're seeing the big hike in the expense. Originally back a few years ago, they were just kind of selling accessories and clothing. And the middle of winter last year, we decided, hey, I think we can be in the club business due to the fact that Jasper isn't really into it, and Edson dabbles in it, but they're not full-fledged like we were last year. The total sales just on clubs last year would have been $151,000. So we know we're on the right track with getting into that market, but that's, again, you're going to see an increase in expense in that. But it also runs on a 2-year cycle. So where you see a major expense for merchandise last year, you're going to see about $110,000 less, because now we've outfitted our shop with correct inventory, and now we just have to piece everything together. So here's some of the percentages of increase. You'll notice that, again, basically they are all up. But the good thing is our revenues also increasing as well. You know, memberships being 13%, you strive for a 5% increase yearly. Memberships are hard because it is a declining thing at most golf clubs. Green fees were up 7%. Driving range was up 65%. And the reason for that was we were able to purchase a new range machine, which ended up producing $20,000 more in revenue, but we had $14,000 expense purchasing that machine. Power carts went up drastically, club storage, rentals, clubhouse, and golf shop sales versus last year were pretty significant. Going into the budget for 2022, we don't really have any big purchases or issues that we think are going to rise, other than we are looking at a couple new, or I should say used mowers that are going to replace 2 old ones that are over 20 years old that cost us quite a bit of money to repair them this year. So we anticipate that it was going to cost us quite a bit this or 2022. So we looked at buying a couple used units which would fit that bill. Administration, basically status quo from last year. Here in the pro shop, you're going to see, this is where you're going to see that drastic decline in golf shop merchandise. Last year was 270,000, and this year it's 150, with $118,000 in confirmation orders that we have right now. There's only one supplier that we need to purchase from. So we know for a fact that we are going to be under that 150,000 or right on the mark. You'll notice also at the bottom, the cart lease, which we'll talk in later slides. So here's food and beverage. Here's the expense. What you'll notice is it doesn't match up to the revenues quite yet, is we didn't project any type of revenue for any type of events. Just on the case that stuff gets canceled, we didn't want to put an X amount of revenue that possibly could get canceled. So we left that out. Right now, we have just over 10 confirmed events for next year, 6 of those being weddings, which with an average spend of about $5,200. Here are some of our key points of revenue. So we are projecting a slight increase in some areas, and some are a little bit less. Just going on to what our data is saying and what the trends in the golf business are doing. But we're projecting $1,583,000, which hopefully gets us a net profit of $41,218. So the big one that's kind of on our plate this year is the cart lease. And why the cart lease is so important is that the carts should have been, we should add a new cart fleet for 2021. So golf carts are strictly on a 4-year lease agreement because that's all they last is 4 years. If we were to use our existing carts this year, that would be year 6. So we are projecting that if we were to fix half of the fleet, it's going to be a pretty significant cost. And you'll see what the old lease was to the new lease if we go forward with it. So if we do run our existing golf carts, we're going to see a minimum expense of $56,000 that we haven't budgeted for yet. But this is only fixing half of the fleet with batteries. We don't know until we start charging them at the beginning of spring how many more are actually going to require batteries. So we have been in touch with Club Car, and we have a lease agreement that's not signed yet, but we're hoping that the town of Hinton would sign off on our lease. It's no expense to the town. It's just that we have no assets now because we transferred them all over. And the company is obviously not willing to give us a cart lease when we don't really have any assets to back it up. So it's basically just that if the Hinton Golfing Society is not going to operate the golf course for years to come, that lease would be transferred over to the new proponent or new operator that comes in, which is very standard for courses that are owned by towns and cities. So I kind of sped through that. So hopefully you guys have some questions for me, and hopefully I can answer them for you.
Great, well, thank you for the presentation. And I do have some counselors with questions. I'm Councillor LaBerge.
Thanks for the presentation, Kyle. When I took a look at last year's numbers, it seemed like the revenue increase or the increases in expenses were offset by increased revenue, except for food and beverage. That $60,000 seemed to fall directly out of there. I mean, when I take a look at your revenue projections of $375,000, you're going to take off the $445,000 worth of food and beverage expenses. I mean, you're budgeting for a $70,000 loss in food and beverage again this year. Now, I appreciate there may be some expenses or some additional events, but if there are, there's going to be additional expenses that go along with them. So, I mean, I don't know what the answer is in that big building, but I mean, I'm interested in your comments as it relates to food and beverage.
Yeah, so what we're dealing with up here is kind of past history. Our customers weren't sure that the restaurant was open due to some previous things that happened prior to us coming. It hasn't even been 2 years since we've established this restaurant, and it's just going to start to increase the more events that we do, more word of mouth that's going to come out. So that projection that we did is very safe. That's to say, hey, if there's no events, this is probably what's going to happen. But obviously we were able to do events this year, a few of them, and next year it's just growing, especially over the winter. So just in our Christmas parties, we sold out for December. They've never had Christmas parties in the last really 5 years up at the golf course because they weren't quite sure on who was running the restaurant. So that's going to hit this year's revenue. I can already say we already made enough more money than we did all of November already in this December for events and things of that nature. So it's going to take some time. All restaurants do. They're very complicated. Staffing's a huge issue. But we now have committed staff on contract till the end of October of next year. So that's going to give us some stability that we didn't have this year. So that's what we're hoping. I know it is showing a loss, but again, that is a very safe prediction.
Thank you. Councillor LaBerge, Mayor Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hey, Kyle, thanks for the presentation. Councillor LaBerge spoke to my question a little bit, just the details. With the events revenue not being in, what would be the projected profit? So basically, what are the revenue, what are the expense, potential expense costs compared to revenue? Meaning there's a $40,000 profit for 2022 projected. If events go forward, what would be the projected profit for the golf course?
So we're projecting $55,000 in events for next year. Again, that's if hopefully that nothing gets canceled. That's what we're projecting at this time. And it's just going to increase as we get closer to the golf season and start our marketing campaign for hosting events at the golf course.
So Kyle, what would be the expenses tied to that? Meaning, as Councillor LeBear said, you're gonna have extra events. Are those costs already attributed within the current budget? Or this is all profit? Or what would be the profit margin on the events?
So our goal for an event is minimum 30% profit margin on that. Obviously, alcohol's a lot higher. We run at a 70 to 80% profit margin. It all depends on what type of event it is. If it's strictly just golf and no food, well, there's not really any type of expense that's associated to it. It's really just the food cost that would increase, as well as the purchase of alcohol.
Okay, if I may. So ballpark, we're looking at, if events go forward, a profit of around $55,000 to $60,000 overall.
I would say so, yeah.
Thank you.
Mayor Michaels, Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Hello, Kyle.
Hello.
Did I hear you say that the Hinton Golf Course has bought into the golf cart business?
A golf club business, yeah.
Alrighty. And my next question is, does the profit take in your obligation to the town?
It does, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Reese. Councillor LeBarge.
Well, I'm gonna ask an obvious question, I guess. Given your comments, the lease would be for 4 years, is that correct?
Yes, the new lease for the golf carts is on a 4-year structure, but the new golf carts now last 8 years. So they have the new lithium ion battery. So now we're getting 8 years. So there is a residual effect in that golf cart. About $2,400 after year 4 is paid. There's going to be $2,400 left owing in each cart, which is very standard in a cart lease.
Thank you.
Councillor LeBarge, Councillor Taylor.
So regarding the food and beverage, you operated at a loss last year, planning to operate at a loss next year. The question is, what's the benefit of having a restaurant and a bar at a golf course? Like, some people just wouldn't come to a golf course unless it had a restaurant or bar. They'd go to another golf course that had one. Can that value be estimated?
Yeah, most golf courses run on a break-even platform for a restaurant at a golf course. The whole idea is just to break even. So obviously, this is still a new restaurant, right? We're promoting it. We're trying to get more people out. Again, not even being 2 years old, I have no reason why this isn't going to be, $500,000 restaurant down the road, and probably in our 5-year plan, that's kind of our goal. But it's just going to attract more events, banquets, weddings of that nature. If we don't have a restaurant, we lose all that revenue. And so most golf courses are on a break-even platform, and most lose, to be honest.
I have no one else. Go ahead.
If we sign another agreement for you, some of the things I would think that would be in it is that, one, you pay us our $50,000 for last year. 2, that we get regular financial reporting on whatever the basis is, quarterly, monthly. And 3, that we'd want budget and actuals to be reasonably close together during that reporting. Would any of that be a concern to you?
Not at all. We've already talked to Debbie from the town and said that we're going to do it on a monthly basis.
Okay, thanks.
Councillor Reese.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Kyle, I hate to keep harping on this. Page 80 of 131 talks about administration. It talks about interest, loans, long-term debt. I can't see debt payment. What page would I go to?
It's going to be, they supplied that on the balance sheet, I believe. We sent that in for you guys to review that as well. I'm not sure if you got it.
So it's not in these papers.
Correct.
Okay, good. Thank you.
The one thing too that that I didn't mention too is when in terms of the revenue for last year is we actually had an additional $65,000 that actually came in just last week, which actually should have been reported on last year's revenue. But because the payment came in December, there was no option to put it back on last year's revenue. So that total is $65,000. So right now, from November 1st to today, we're showing just over $104,000 in revenue at the golf course.
Thank you, sir.
May I answer Joanne's question?
Yeah, I was looking for that. too.
Page 73 has the $50,000 loan repayment issued in one of the expense lines. If that's the debt you're referring to.
Thank you for that additional information, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Magoon's also joining us via Zoom today, and Councillor Magoon has a question.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, Kyle, I have a question for you regarding the loss of a councillor on the board, whether it be as a voting member or there as just to be someone from the town organization and council. How would you characterize that loss since that position's been removed? Has that impacted your ability, from your perspective to communicate with council? What's the net effect of that been?
Yeah, in my opinion, it was a huge loss for us. And I can refer to my experience with yourself on there. To have just that insight of what council is thinking and maybe the direction that we're thinking and what they're thinking, and hopefully that they match up. And if they don't, figure out solutions on how we can coordinate working together so that the Hinton Golfing Society never has to come to the town and request any additional funds.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, further comments or questions? All right, seeing none, then I'd just like to say thank you for the presentation this evening, and wish you a good evening.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That brings us to our final civic agency presentation for the evening, the Hinton Historical Society. Sure. Yeah, we can take a break for a couple minutes. We'll take 5 minutes if that's okay. We'll be back at 6:26.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you.
The old guys are.
It'll help me focus.
What's wrong with the young people here?
All right, we'll call our committee of the whole meeting back to order and move on to our final civic agency presentation for the evening from the Hinton Historical Society.
Hi, Lorraine. Do you have your presentation handy to share, or would you like me to share it over here?
If you could share it there, please, Jen. I don't have the capability on my phone, so.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, well, we're ready whenever you are. If you want to introduce yourself, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Stashik, and hello, all council members. I'm Lorraine Johnston McKay. I am the president of the Hinton Historical Society. We just had our AGM last week, and we are very happy to have a full slate of board members and some new ones as well. So we've got 3 new board members from our previous board. Most of you do know that our society has been around for quite a few years. You want to go to the next page, Jen?
Yeah.
Thanks. We do have our Northern Rockies Museum, so that's where our funding goes. We have very little of our funding actually supports our historical society, but we do operate the Northern Rockies Museum of Culture and Heritage. And in the last 4 years since we've been open, this museum has become a real cultural hub, and through our social media and our webpage, it has reached out to not just locals and people that have visited the site, but to many other people throughout not only Alberta, but throughout Canada. We do have a strategic plan in place that we put together 4 years ago. At that time, we did come up with revised our vision and our mission statement. And of course, our vision is to present and engage the community and have fun. And of course, our mission is to collect and share our unique history in a way that engages and educates. When we did our strategic plan, that was the main thing, is that we didn't want people to think of a museum as an old building. You go in there, you go there, you've seen it, you don't have to go back again. But with the fun aspect and engaging the community, that's what we've been able to do with our most recent manager, Madison Sharman. She brought the fun and the engagement of the museum out to the community and out to the rest of the world, basically. In our strategic plan, and I did include the one page, let me just see where that one is. It is on page 92 of your package. The values that we have within the strategic plan are listed there. We engage people who are responsible, building partnerships, be very inspiring, include everyone, and stimulate creativity with there's focus areas within each of those values. Of course, the last 2 years, and it's not just with our organization, but with every nonprofit organization, as well as businesses and including municipalities, we've been impacted a great deal by the pandemic. With our museum, our revenue streams have been impacted. That includes our gift shop, the admissions for the museum itself, rentals. We had the rental area in the lower level. Programming, we weren't able to provide the programming on the same scale that we had in the past, and the availability of grants and the approvals. And of course, there's always that ever-growing need and applications for any of the grants, as well as fundraising dollars within our community. We've had to have the periodic closures that were mandated to museums. We did have, I believe, at least 2. I believe there was 3 of them. And we were able to open up the gift shop at times when we weren't able to have the museum itself open. So that did bring in a little bit of revenue at that time. We were also not able to accept staffing grants that we did. We were approved for. We were approved for Young Canada Works grants, as well as the Alberta Summer Jobs grants. But because we weren't open or be able to provide the programming that the grant applications were for, we had to decline those grants that we'd received. Of course, we did have a lot of successes as well through the pandemic. Without being able to provide the programming through the schools and to the public, our manager and her staff were able to develop online programs, and they did some live streaming. And I don't know if any of you were able to watch them. I was able to, just for curiosity, and they were just amazing, the live programming that was done. They were also
Sorry to interrupt, Lorraine. We might be having a technical difficulty. I just got a text that the presentation isn't being transmitted. No, they're saying that it's the YouTube landing page is what they're seeing.
It started out okay.
Can you see it, Lorraine? Could you see the presentation while you were talking?
I did at first, but I've got, I wasn't looking at my phone. I was looking at my laptop with the presentation that I've got, but
Okay, just give us 1 sec. We'll see if we can figure out what's going on.
there it is.
You see it now?
I can see it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so, yeah, like I was saying, Madison and Tara are 2 employees. Maddie is the manager, of course. They also did subscription boxes, and those were well received by parents and teachers, and not just teachers and such in Hinton, but throughout Alberta. We actually just, in, I believe it was the end of September, beginning of October, we sold a great number of the ones that we still had in stock to the homeschooling, I guess the homeschooling curriculum, the people that subscribe to that in Hinton. So those are still being very actively used. We also have it's a site called Teachers Pay Teachers, and there are some projects. They're not, they don't cost a lot, a few dollars is what they are. And they're activities and little projects that teachers can go online there and find things to do. In this package, I did include our financial statement for 2021. Our fiscal year, of course, is June 1st of every year to May 31st. So the financial statement that you did receive reflects only till May 31st of 2021. And I've also included our 2021-2022 budget. And this budget, we've reflected the staffing to be what we've had, because with the pandemic, we did have to let our part-time employee go. There just wasn't the funding there, and there wasn't the work to sustain having and to for the board to really think that it was worth the while of paying that person when we weren't able to have the income. But the budget for this year is to also include a part-time assistant. Just for your knowledge, earlier this year, I believe it was September, maybe the end of August, but I worked a day, volunteered my time at the museum. So Madison, our manager, took the day off, and well-deserved, of course. And at that time, there was also a rental in our lower level. There was a baby shower. So I was there by myself as the employee, the way Madison worked for most of her time there, except when, of course, the part-timer was there. We had the rental in the lower level. There was tours. I had sometimes 3-4 groups in at the same time, as well as people in the gift shop and also people outside, just utilizing the grounds that we have there. I honestly don't know how Madison did it for so long by herself, because it is just definitely a very hectic time. People were great. The visitors that came in, they were very understanding. And in the gift shop as well, they were just tickled with the selections that we had. And as I mentioned, our staff cuts and that additional stress on Maddie as well. So there was a few times that myself and a few others were able to come up and to just be there and to provide that extra person in the building. Our volunteers, of course, majority of us work, so we're not able to do that on an ongoing basis. So we do require another staff person. We also stopped hosting community events. That was something that we used to involve the community, again, going back to our strategic plan. And there was also no conferences or courses that our staff were able to attend. Most of those, of course, were either canceled completely or very limited registrations. And cutbacks have canceled the summer camps. That was our Roam program, not just the summer camps, but also the monthly programming that was provided for youth. And adult workshops, there was always something ongoing in the evenings throughout the year, including paint nights, different sessions like that. And of course, without the proper staff, if there was any request, pardon me, for historical information, that was also very limited. We did apply for, figured it out, probably about $175,000 in grants and sponsorships in the last year and a half. So this would have been throughout our fiscal year and the prior, or the end of the year. So we did receive some full grants. Sponsorship from Tech was for the boxes that we were giving out or providing to schools. So we were able to, instead of charging for those ones, we were able to provide them for free to all the whatever grade level that they were done up for. So that was really well accepted. The same as Bighorn. They also did sponsorship for the boxes, the subscription boxes. Again, here it shows that we did apply for Young Canada Works and Canada Summer Jobs. We did receive funding for those, or we were approved for it. We never did receive the funding, of course, because we had to decline them due to the fact that we weren't able to bring staff in due to the closures that were happening. TransCanada Energy, we did receive half of what we'd applied for that. And with that grant, we were able to do some finishing work. We were able to put the railings on the stairs, for example, a number of other projects that Madison had applied for, and most of them were on the exterior of the building to help beautify that area. Yellowhead County, $500 grant accepted, and honestly, I'm sorry, I don't know what that one was for, but I can research it if you do need that information. And then Aquaterra, they sponsored $1,000. We had applied for $6,000, and that was to assist in doing the water table. The water table is an activity that is out on the deck. If you come in the summer or when the weather's nicer, then you can check it out. It is great for kids and adults to understand water, how dams work, how water interacts with different things throughout the waterways. Our strategic, or the Town of Hinton strategic plan and their guiding principles, of course, we do fall in with a number of those, the culture and recreation. We've created programming that boosts the culture within our community. Roam and Learning Railway, those are the programming for the curriculum that were developed. We have community engagement that's also ongoing all the time. One of the great things that our staff do at the museum is provide information. There's been, Madison developed brochures and little maps that she provides to the local tourists that talk about the different historic sites and different walking trails within our community, and also provides them with tourists as well as locals information on how to get to the different areas within our region. Of course, education and wellness, that's within the strategic plan, or I guess the previous strategic plan. I know from watching council that you're, as a new council, will be developing your own strategic plan, and I'm sure that a lot of these will remain. We do have a lot of outreach, and prior to COVID, the Northern Rocky Mountain hosted over 500 students from out of Hinton for different tours. So it's not just the local schools that come to the museum. It is tour groups, students from Grand Cache, Jasper, and Edson. And we, like I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of home education that was provided during the lockdown. The Promote Hinton as an adventure destination. Our museum is partnered with museums within Yellowhead County and as well as in Edson. And the route to the Rockies was developed. It promotes travel within the Yellowhead corridor and provides information to help explore local points of interest as well as the museums. With that, there's also a social media Facebook page, and I know that the other social media platforms like, sorry, I can't think of them, but there's other social media platforms that our manager was definitely involved in. Sustaining and expanding a 12-month recreation. The programming that we've had to suspend was ongoing. In February, I believe it was, we would have the axe throwing contests, part of the winter festival that we do at the museum. And I believe there was a beard growing contest, and I think that Mayor Michaels won that one year. So thank you for being involved and taking part in our activities there. There are also, like I said earlier, lots of information on hiking spots and heritage spots. And of course, explore opportunities to improve children and youth services. The programming that the museum provides has been one of the great successes prior to the pandemic. And then of course, during the pandemic, the I guess the knowledge that our staff have of what is required and what they can provide through the museum to assist with the ongoing curriculums, and to provide that through online programming is definitely something that's helped. And also when the little ones come to the museum, each exhibit also has, they not only provide the information for on the adult level for the exhibit, but also activities within the exhibit that relate to children, that children can do. I know when I go to other museums, I like to also partake in these, or if there's the video and audio, or the audio aspect, I'll also often listen to the children's ones because there's a lot of great information on that, and that's what our museum provides as well. I did provide the budget as well for our year, and I know this had been provided to council before, services that have been provided by other museums in our region and compared with what we provide. And by no means is this meant to say that one museum is better than the other, because we're all great and we love our partnerships that we have. It's just showing that with the limited funding that we do provide, we are able to have these services for the community, from programming to events, and to have all that information provided. So our annual budget, it's not really changed too much over the last few years, with having one full-time manager as well as a part-time assistant. It usually averages between 120, around the 123, 125,000 mark. And of course, the majority of that does go for staffing, for wages, as with any organization, to bring in qualified and knowledgeable people within the museum community. We do have to provide a good wage. I've mentioned we've lost our previous manager, Madison Sharman. She's moved on to wonderful things. Her and her husband moved, and they're 2 hours away from Hinton, so of course that commute wasn't possible. But on January 3rd, we do have our new manager. Her name is Margaret Schultz. She'll be joining us. And Margaret is educated in historical programming, and she does have her degree. So we are tickled pink to have her join us. I know that she will come in and bring her own great ideas. She has done programming in the past with youth, so she also brings that with her. So yeah, I think that's about it. I know that talking with Heather, with town staff, they were drawing up a draft agreement for our civic agency for the funding. I haven't seen anything on that, a draft yet. And Heather had also mentioned that council may come forward with the ask to have a member of council sit on our board. We did do a revision of our bylaws this year. We did have a number of other things we were going to revise, so that is included in our bylaws this year, to have ex officio members from council to sit on the board. So that is something that we are looking forward and had that included. So that's my presentation. So I look forward to the questions you may have.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Council, questions, comments? Councilor Taylor?
Yeah, this is your budget for the next year, correct?
That's our budget for the 2021, 2022. Yes, our fiscal year is June 1st to May 31st.
So why is there no revenue projected for the casino that's in the third quarter of 2022? Why is there no? And why is there,
This budget goes till May of 2022.
oh, I see, okay.
Yeah, and we have been, and thank you, Councillor Taylor. We have been confirmed that we are in the queue for hosting a casino in the third quarter of 2022. We haven't received the date yet, but we have been told that hopefully in the new year, hopefully January, latest February, we will have our date. Those funds, of course, we're not able to use those for wages. So of course, with wages being our highest budget item, but we do have a lot of projects, especially on the exterior of the building out in our land area, that we definitely want to pursue and get finished. So the money for the casinos will definitely help in that.
The other is almost a comment, maybe a question. And it said, who's ever doing your sponsorship and grants, looks like they're really doing a lot of effort for you. Because you got, it looks like $50,000 worth of grants or sponsorships that came in that 20-month period.
That's right.
Is that level of effort going to continue in the future?
It definitely will. Our manager did put in for those. Well, and actually, I think Tara was our part-time assistant, was very, she was responsible for a number of those grant applications. She did the researching on them as well. So with that assistance, I know that there was the one grant, let me just see which one it was, for the archives, that are some of our volunteers applied for that one. So it is a group effort, but majority of it is our staff that do it. Because like I said, our board is, we work.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. We have Councillor Magoon is joining us via Zoom as well. Councillor Magoon has a question.
Hi, Lorraine.
Hi, Ryan.
Lorraine, when I'm looking at page 6 of your report, Council, it's page 88 of 131 in the agenda package. First of all, thanks, because I like the comparative analysis of essentially the revenue and service breakdowns of comparative museums in the region. And for me, I think the one thing that it shows again is the fact that, I think a lot of other museums in the region have a lot of funding from other sources. Case in point, Galloway has got a partnership with the Yellowhead County. Jasper has got the fundraising and donations to nearly the tune of $100,000. Again, the Tipple Park, Yellowhead County is a contributor to $85,000. When was the last conversation with the county? How did that go in terms of partnering up with them? Because I think really that's the last great untapped resource that I can think of when I'm looking at revenue generation.
Oh, thank you. The last conversation that we did have, I believe it would be within the last year. And the county has again said that because we're not situated in Yellowhead County, they can't provide operational funding, but we can apply for their grants that they have up to $5,000 for heritage. It's a heritage grant. And we do have a person that we know now sits or works with the Yellowhead County. Madison Sharman is the heritage coordinator now with Yellowhead County. And she has reached out to all the museums in the area and just said that if we do have some information or something that we want to do to let her know, and she will do what she can to help us and to work with us for that $5,000. So Councillor Magoon, it would be a maximum of $5,000 at this time, which we are definitely going to pursue.
Awesome, thanks for that. My brain's churning a little bit. I'm trying to think of other ways to sort of sell that and pitch them to them, but you know, that's something we could talk about another time if you've got some time.
That's right. Yes, definitely, because I've got a few more things to add, but I won't do it at this meeting.
For sure. Thanks. I appreciate it. And again, thanks for the comparative.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, is there any further comments or questions? All right, seeing nothing, then we would like to thank you for your presentation this evening. Certainly is appreciated. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you all very
Thanks,
much and
Marie.
have a wonderful evening. You're welcome. Bye, everybody.
Good night.
Bye.
Very good. That brings us to our delegation presentation for the evening. The Pine Valley Expansion Fundraising Team donation request. I believe that's being presented by Brad Bancroft. Certainly is. Welcome, Mr. Bancroft.
Hi, everybody.
Come on in, have a seat.
How's everybody today? Good. Tired?
Not yet.
Not yet?
Still early. Still a short meeting.
That's good, because I've got a couple of hours here, so I can beat you down. Hey?
We'll look forward to that.
Okay, I'll just get your presentation brought up and then you can direct which slide you'd like to speak to, and
You bet.
it looks like it's up, so, oh, kind of.
Kind
There
of.
we go. So whenever you're ready, the floor is yours.
All right, guys. So I'm Brad Bancroft. I'm president of the Pine Valley Expansion Fundraising Team. I've been in front of you guys before, except for a couple of you. So congrats on the new council members, you guys. I think we've got a great group here. So yeah, long and short of it, everybody knows about the new lodge. And with the new build, we need to put stuff inside of it to enhance the lives of our seniors, right? So if we can go to the next slide.
Brad, can you just give me a second here?
You betcha.
Used to be talking about old people.
So anyways, when I came before you guys, talked to you, and you know, we had gone through the process of applying for one of the community grants within the town. Let me tell you, I work full-time. There's a ton of work involved with applying for those grants and stuff. We had 4 or 5 people working on that. We were successful, and that was wonderful, and it helped us out immensely. We got some funds towards a craft room through that there. So in this first slide, I just have Kristen Chambers. She's the CAO down there at Evergreens, and just a little bit of a talk from her regarding the new facility, how the pre-existing one was only 30 units. The new one is 101. And really what it's all about is just enhancing the lives, not just of the people that are living there, but of this whole community. There's a lot of opportunities for interaction between people in the community and the people that are living within that facility. So if we can go to the next slide there. So this one here just speaks, the slide just speaks a little bit towards some of the things that we've been trying to do. So at the start of it, when I first approached Kristen, because I knew they were going to have to raise some funds, the price tag on everything that we were raising funds for was approximately $400,000. And I said I'd get together a group. We gave ourselves a 1-year timeline, and we would try to hit that. Once we got started, I realized that something was missing, and to me, that something was we needed a woodwork shop there as well. Like, we've got a craft room, we've got some things, but we needed something else, and that woodworking shop is going to really, really enhance the lives of a lot of the people that might not want to sit there with a glue gun in their hand. Okay, so It's a great opportunity. That raised our price by $100,000. Some of the things that we've been doing though, so start with Canada Day. We did a duck race. The town, I don't know if you guys remember, but this past Canada Day, with everything going on with COVID, we had a birthday cake up at the Green Square, and that was basically it. So between holding silent auctions and some duck race and some 50-50s and stuff up there that day, we were able to raise quite a bit of money that day there. And there was a lot of community people out there taking part in the duck race and everything else. Hill Valley Engraving just started doing up these little trees, and 100% of the proceeds they're donating to us. We did a walkathon. It was awesome. We did it over the course of a weekend, and there's some people in here who are some of our biggest fundraisers. Thank you, Trevor. We had a lot, like all the seniors went and got sponsors, and they all went out for a great big walk. It was incredible. There's been some donations from people that have passed on, that they've left money with the Resident Care Foundation, etc. And so that's helped us. And we just recently did this Christmas bake sale and craft sale. We raised almost $8,000 last weekend doing that. So a lot of work, a lot of donations from people. Right now, we're currently doing this 50-50 online. It wraps up tonight, actually. It's finishing. So, and you know, that's a couple $1,000s in our pocket. If we can go to the next slide, please. So some of the things that we need to furnish or whatever, right? So this is one that, to me, should interest the town of Hinton. You know, there's talk about refinishing those tennis courts or whatever as pickleball courts or whatever. And I think there's quite a cost associated with that. These guys want to put in a pickleball court, and it's open to the public, right? So, or pickleball courts. So $30,000, like, so that's one of the things. And some of these items, you know, we get them sponsored, and then those people's names or whoever sponsors it, those names will be associated and attached with that. So like this is one of the ones that was, the ones that are done in the green are the ones that we've already accepted money towards. Okay, so this one here, a gentleman had left that money in his will, and we received that through the Linda Johnson Resident Care Foundation. Yeah, they've got some sculptures they want to put outside. We're doing some art installations, beautiful art installations that are being made up by a local artist that are gonna come in the main hallway. The outdoor deck, so there's a rooftop above where they bring in all the goods, and they're gonna actually turn it into an outdoor deck that's gonna be incredible. Just a nice big private space where people go sit out there and have some time. So can I look at the next one, please? Yeah, so then there's there was 14 lounges throughout the facility. So, you know, if Bob doesn't like Henry, well, they don't have to sit in the same lounge. They can go sit in different areas, right? So there was 14 lounges there, all different sizes, and we've been getting quite a few donations, like the Legion donated for one. They had a private donation just recently come in of somebody that wanted to donate another one, right? So really good. Can we see some more here? So then same here, this is just a bunch of the lounges that are still available throughout. And the next one. So the Senior Society, so we started out as Pine Valley Expansion Fundraising Team. There was already a Pine Valley Senior Lodge Society in place. They wanted to quit. They're ready to give it up. They've been doing it for years, but they had a license so that they could do bigger fundraisers. We needed that license, so we took over that as well. So now we're essentially two different units working. My name's on both of them, and my treasurer's name's on both of them, etc. So that we could do these, but they had this money sitting in their kitty, just that they hadn't utilized yet. So they wanted to make sure it got put someplace, and they got some recognition for that. This WF, West Fraser is talking about sponsoring quite a bit of stuff there, and they're looking to donate a fair amount of money. Hasn't come through yet, but that's some of the people that we're looking at right now. Can I see the next one? Yeah, so there's the pub, there's the cafe. So this craft room what we did through the town grant. Also the senior society, they also donated, they wanted to do the greenhouse, which is a huge, huge thing there. Hinton Ministries has talked about doing the chapel, they haven't come through just yet, but that one's there. Private dining room was already covered off. There's a boardroom that we still need to furnish. Let's see the next one. Another meeting room, the salon. The main dining room, West Fraser is looking at doing as well. So West Fraser, if you've been looking, is looking at a very substantial amount of money. So if they come through, that's going to be absolutely great for us. Roy Lewis is a gentleman. He donated 5 of the different studio rooms furnished through his estate. The Legion did another one. And then this woodworking shop and the equipment is not yet, I don't know why I did it in green, but it should be white, is not yet covered off. But that essentially is going to cost us another $100,000 for that building and the equipment that's going to go within it. So then I just have some pictures of the facility, if we can just start to scroll through them. So here's that outdoor deck I talked about. This is just what some of the different lounge areas, the pickleball courts. Anybody ever play pickleball, they better hope to put up some fences around those things or you'll be chasing stuff all over. Right, but this is a little bit of similar to what the arts and crafts room looking like right now. The chapel, we've got a salon there. Yeah, so they're gonna put in a hair salon, a little bistro cafe, so I can go there and take my mom out for a muffin or something. If that might be the case, if she gets moved in there. We've got a dining, so once the big dining room is done, it's gonna be absolutely beautiful. It's gonna be a private dining room, so same thing, if my folks end up in there and if we wanna have a family gathering for a birthday or a Christmas, that'll be available, right? So those are some pretty important spaces. I'm not gonna bend your guys' ears too long here tonight. So yeah, we just wanna take the moment to say thank you for your consideration in this, okay? My ask when I came in front of council before was a one-time donation of $50,000. That's for you guys to discuss. Like I said, the pickleball courts are $30,000. That woodworking shop is gonna cost $100,000. If you guys think it's in your budget and you guys can afford to throw $100,000 at that place, I'm sure not gonna ever say we don't want it because I would be forever grateful. That would be incredible. But I'm just throwing that out there, right? It's been a ton of work for us. We gave ourselves 1 year. We have until March of this upcoming year to complete that raise of those funds. So I'm asking that council direct administration to put X amount of dollars into next year's budget to give to us towards helping us out here. I'm not gonna talk to you guys about budgets and stuff, because I don't have a budget. I'm just trying to raise some money to help out our town, okay? So if you guys have any questions, please fire away.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Mr. Bancroft. We do have a couple of councilors in queue already. So we'll go to Councilor Laberge first and then Councilor Hawes.
So of the 500,000, how much been raised, Brad?
We're just over 300 right now.
Okay.
Councilor Hawes?
Yeah, thank you, Brad. And you say you don't have a budget, but I see a pretty clear budget here in regards to where money's earmarked. So I guess I have 2 questions. One is, I imagine you're working closely, obviously, with the Evergreens, so the funds go to these earmarked places. Is
That's
that
right.
correct? Okay. And then my next question is operationally. So Evergreens is planning to budget then in the operation budget, say for the workroom or whatever, or the woodworking room, to continue those art room material stuff like that. So they've dedicated that once we've got them up and going, that they're going to continue that operation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everything, all of that is earmarked for that. So
awesome. Okay. Thank you.
Councilor Hawes, go to Mayor Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to Councilor Hawes's question, This is like the standard model Evergreens uses. They build the project, they leave some amount for each of the municipalities to raise. The reason being, we pay about 11% of the total project. So Pine Valley, just over $30 million. Our requisition, if we requisition $5 million every year, we would pay $550,000. So the MD at Greenview and the other county pay the biggest chunk of it. But we leave X amount of dollars for us, for each municipality to have that kind of community feel, the buy-in to this development, and then you raise those funds. So just a little context. After that, it's completely evergreens forever. They operate, they maintain, they replace, etc. But this is just the incentive for each municipality to put the finishing touches on it. Thanks.
Thank you for that, Mayor Michaels. Councillor Hawes.
Yeah, and it brings me, just to build on that too, it brings me to the comment that you made, Brad, in one of the past presentations, where if you took a building and you turned it upside down, nothing right now would come out. You know, that all that funding that put up the shell, put up the building, but the guts of it really is up to the municipality. I think it's important the community realizes that, you know, that those dollars went into building it, but now it's up to the municipality and organizations like yourselves to then, you know, if we didn't do this, then they'd have a shell but nothing within it. So, you know, I really, hats off to you and your group. You've done an excellent job. The amount of money that you've raised in a short period of time is phenomenal. So that's a great job. Thank you.
And if I can, you guys are very community driven. So with the craft room, there's already been groups go in there and spend time doing different crafts with the seniors in those rooms. Individuals and schools have talked to them. And the same thing will happen with the woodworking shop. You know, maybe the boys from the shop or the kids from the shop can go down there and partake in a little bit of work with those individuals in their shop and see what they've got going on. And there can be a little bit of learning going both ways. And some, it's great. It teaches young children a lot of empathy and builds relationships. It's great for our community. If we get our outdoor skating rink built that they talk about there, you know, that'll be another thing. Not that the residents will be utilizing it, but it'll be pretty awesome for them to be able to sit inside there and look outside and see people skating and stuff outside as well, right? So just brings the community to them as part of, makes them feel a lot more involved in the community.
Thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Yellowhead County being approached for money?
They have not.
Why not?
Because I never thought of it until I was sitting out in the hallway and heard 3 other people ask that question.
Well, go get them.
Yeah, we will approach them for sure.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, any further comments, questions? Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have to say, Brad, when you go into a senior's facility with a young child and the seniors see that child, they just light up. So what you're doing, wanting this community involvement, I just applaud you. It'll add years to their lives. So, go get them.
So thank you for your time. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to hearing back from you guys. All right.
Well, thanks for joining us today. Thank you for the presentation.
You bet. You guys go have some supper now.
Not quite yet. Not yet.
All right. Thanks very much.
Hopefully soon.
Thanks, Brad. Bye.
Bye, Brad.
Thanks. Okay, boards and committees of council reporting. I don't believe we have anything this week. So that brings us to our one and only action item, British Columbia wildfire deployment revenue.
Mr. Chair, is there no one there to speak to that? If not, I will.
I believe interim CEO Howard is, sorry, my apologies. I was scrolling back to my agenda to see who was presenting.
Yeah, no, that's, I'll just introduce it quickly, just
Okay.
technology to come catch up here. We have quite a brief report, couple of pages in front of you. just to, we did have some unexpected and anticipated unbudgeted revenue come into the fire rescue budget this year when we were requested by the province to send some resources into BC to support their wildfire situation. After we paid for staff and replaced some equipment, there's about $95,000 left over. Again, unanticipated, unbudgeted revenue. The request of administration tonight is to transfer that net revenue into the fire equipment reserve before the end of the year. If that doesn't happen, then what happens with general revenue surplus is it just gets put into the overall town budget and it almost gets washed away. But we just wanted to bring this opportunity to your attention. The fire equipment reserve is one of those reserves that is underfunded. It's also one of the reserves that was flagged during your 2022 capital budget process to dip into to fund a couple of the items from the fire rescue service branch there. So if you have any questions, Mr. DeBodra is here to assist as well.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Interim CEO Howard. Councilor Taylor.
If it goes into this reserve, it still needs, if it gets spent, approval of council.
Interim CEO Howard.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, all money that gets spent from any reserve always gets, always a council decision, correct?
And if the money is needed somewhere else, the reserve can always be transferred to something else.
Yes, yes, and that too would be at the direction of council.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilor Taylor. Councilor Hoss.
Yeah, I'd like to move the committee recommend administration bring forward a request for decision to transfer of the 2021 unbudgeted revenues generated by the fire rescue service branch related to the British Columbia wildfire deployment to the fire equipment reserve to the December 2021 regular council meeting for decision. If I can speak to it.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, I think this is logical. We were called upon and we're able to respond to BC's request, and as a result of that, we got these funds. I think it only logical that it go into that reserve, into our fire equipment reserve. And as Councillor Taylor's already asked, goes in there, it gets, budgeted in that reserve. It can be transferred if necessary to other reserves at a time. So I think that this is the right place for it right at this time. So thank you.
Okay, thank you for that, Councillor Hoss. Council, we now have a motion to recommend. Any comments, questions? Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I just want to add, we have had this discussion before. We've got bunker gear that needs to be ordered. We've got BAs that need to be ordered, the FDM. Excellent spot for this one to go. So I would support that motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council. Okay, seeing nothing further, I'll question to the committee recommend administration bring forward a request for decision to transfer of the 2021 unbudgeted revenues generated by the fire rescue service branch related to the British Columbia wildfire deployment to the fire equipment reserve to the December 21st, 2021 regular council meeting for decision. All those in favor? Opposed? And that was carried. Is there anything further regarding the British Columbia wildfire deployment revenue item? All right, we will move on to our discussion item. It is the whistleblower policy, and I believe that is being presented by Councillor Hoss.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I bring this to council for a discussion. How long it takes, I'm not sure, but I've looked at past in our own organization, and it's reaching out to other organizations as well, doing some research. And this is a policy that a lot of municipalities are starting to adopt or start to build in their organizations. And as you can see from looking at some of the examples and the reasons for it, just some more accountability. We as a council have a code of conduct, or bylaw, of course, in our conduct. It's the opportunity for others, and it states whether it's employees, whether it's contractors, community members, if they have a concern. And the examples that I've given are some pretty detailed, what kind of things would be brought forward through a policy like this. But it gives an opportunity for some anonymity to the reporter. And it just, I think, can better our organization. I'll be completely honest with you. I really dislike the name whistleblower policy. I don't like that name in general. I wish that there was a different name for it. Like I said, you see the one in Parkland. You saw some examples there. I know that St. Albert is currently working on it. I've reached out to a few municipalities. They have also said that their organizations are also developing policies such as this as well. And yeah, I thought that it would generate some conversation. I realize that policies, and I look at administration, I realize policies and bylaws, we've prioritized some things. I've been torn with this of adding another possible policy to our organization and building it. But I think, I think it's a way of moving our organization forward as well. So I open it up to, up to Mr. Chair to then open up to the floor.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Appreciate the presentation. Council, are there any comments or questions? Councillor Taylor.
My only question would be to make this a higher priority. Is there a specific problem we're trying to solve here? The specific issue that we have, I mean, maybe you can't talk about the specific issue. That would be what would make this a higher priority, maybe than our budget, attracting business, running the town the best we possibly can. Otherwise, this would be a kind of routine priority.
Councillor Haas, did you want to respond?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chair, I'm not going to speak to a specific, but I do know from an organizational standpoint, sometimes employees feel it difficult to come forward with concerns possibly. And I think this gives an opportunity for those employees to come forward and if there's any concerns, on decisions that are made or anything like that, they may not feel comfortable. This gives an opportunity to be a voice and have a comfort to share that information. And I think that it just, opens up that possibility more and abilities to learn as an organization. I don't look at this as an opportunity to, tattletale on others. It's also the opportunity to learn and build and grow as an organization. And I feel that our organization could work towards that, be stronger in that way. So I see this as a way of trying to accomplish that. So as to priorities, that I'm going to leave to that question, Councillor Taylor. That's a decision of council. I just wanted to bring this forward and see what the rest of council thinks and then discuss that priority at that time. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. I have Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I think for myself, obviously it's a best practice. It's something that's utilized across a large number of organizations. I think as Councillor Taylor indicated, though, really it comes down to a question of priority. We know that we're going to have to do some strategic planning as a council right away. So I'd look forward to, sort of throwing this on the old sticky notes with the rest of the policies and procedures that we all generate together and sort of see how it plays out in the grand scheme of things. But I certainly have no problem with it. Again, it's widely utilized across a number of different organizations. So yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council Mayor Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I like this. I think this is a trend that municipalities are going to follow inevitably. It's a whistleblowing or being able to bring forward information without any repercussions is the world we're going to. Now, again, the word priority came up. To me, this isn't overly complicated. We have the Parkland County one, seems fairly basic. If there's an appetite for this, I think we give a long date, even 2023. End of second quarter 2023 to have a draft whistleblower policy similar to Parkland County come to us for discussion. To me, it's not that, I don't know, there's not a ton in there. This is a 4 or 5 page thing. That's where I would go. But then again, I don't think this will be vetted through the strategic plan. To be honest, I just don't see it funneling through there. So if there's appetite, either revisit this in a few months to have that discussion publicly, because I do support this long term, or let's just set a date of 18 months that a draft comes before us after we've prioritized other things. We've worked on the code of conduct. I'm okay with moving forward with something like this, but not paying attention to it immediately as we have other priorities. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. Councillor Hawes, did you want to respond?
Yeah, please. Yeah, and I appreciate those comments, Mayor Michaels. That's why I strategically tried to find examples that were simple and potentially a good fit for our organization that isn't too complicated for administration to draft, and hence why I also shared, really just the outline of it as well and samples. So I agree. I'm not looking for this personally. I mean, we have other things and fish to fry and things to work on. But I do think that, if 2023 or by the end of 2022 or something of that nature, I think is a reasonable approach with this. But I do feel that this is a policy that other municipalities are starting to build into their organization. And I think, with that trend, I think the town of Hinton should also consider it too. But because I agree with Mayor Michaels that this is not going to fit into our strategic planning, that normally policies don't fit into our strategic planning. So I think that that's the consideration this evening, is just if we want to go this direction, how long. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm really grateful that you brought this forward, Councillor Hawes. I would hate to see this wait till 2023. This is an avenue for people who are circled right now, who are struggling in their work environment and need a safe, venue to get out. I would hate to see this go 2023. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council.
Well, yeah, I guess to seek some consensus on this evening and to see where the rest of the council's at, I'd like to recommend council the committee recommend administration bring forward a draft whistleblower policy before the end of February 2023. Yeah.
Did you want to speak to it, Councillor Hawes?
Yeah, I've listened to council and I realize that we have other, and not only to council, but also to administration in past meetings. We have a lot of policies that need to be updating and need to be worked on. And I don't want to see this. Those are important policies too that need to be updated and drafted and completed. And I'm hoping that with 2022 coming, that work, will be accomplished. And then we can look at, this policy. And I put before February 2023, giving the opportunity for administration to bring it sooner than that, if it is possible. And hopefully by then, by 2023, we'll have a better look at all those other policies, get this one discussed and hopefully put through, which I think can be very easily done based on the other municipalities. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, there is a decision request. Sorry, Interim CEO Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If I could, two things. One, just the wording on your motion, if you could say that committee direct administration.
Oh, yeah.
That will actually get some action.
Okay, thank you.
And the second thing is regarding the timing of that, I appreciate that. There may be budget implications to this.
Okay.
It's usually an external third party who does the investigations and calls for it. So before it gets implemented, there would have to be a budget allocation toward that. That would be part of what comes forward with the draft policies, the implications for that. So just so that you're aware that the timing would need to align with that. So we'll be bringing it for the 2023 budget, which is for sure in fall, summer, fall is when we start to work on that, and then you would know what kind of money to put in the budget for your consideration.
Thank you for that. So with that, Councilor Hawes, any other thoughts?
So I guess, I don't know if I have thoughts, but I guess recommendations from, because I hear what you're saying and I agree if there is a third party involved, which it seems that's the trend. So what would then the recommendations, we have it to 2023, which would be then considered for 2024, or would you recommend something different, Council, for COs or CO?
Sure. In order to get this in the budget so that it's active for 2023, that would need to say probably June in order for you to see a draft, go through a draft, have it fleshed out. And then we could push it probably to September, October, knowing that we could put a placeholder in as late as sort of November into the budget. I apologize, I have no idea what the cost is, whether that's a $2,000 a year or $20,000 a year. So that's so that would almost create an inherent pressure to prioritize it if you wanted it to be alive and well by 2023. Otherwise, then we could definitely just bring you a draft for 2023 and then either put a placeholder in your budget for that or implement it for 2024. There's a couple different options. And my apologies for bringing that up. Didn't mean to complicate anything. I'm just trying to think it through to deliver what you're asking for without making it a priority.
Well, appreciate the additional clarification. Councilor Ross?
Yeah, and you know what, and I appreciate, yeah, definitely, I overlooked that as well, and thank you for that, CO Haworth. I mean, personally, I think I'm okay with still February 2023 for a look into the 2024 budget. You know, I think that it's too fast. Currently, we have other, again, stuff that we need to deal with and everything, and to rush this, I don't see the need for it. I think that we can still accomplish some things, you know, culturally and everything, environmentally with our organization. This is just an added measure. So I'm still comfortable with that coming forward, and then look at what is the budget implication for 2024 in that conversation. So, but I'll leave it to the rest of council for that, but I'm okay with this state.
Thank you, Councilor Hawes. I do have a couple, Mayor Michaels and then Councilor Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With the new information about the budgeting costs, I would still recommend maybe May of 2023 for this to come. We go in budget times, we're looking at an implementation date of 2024. End of May gives more flexibility. And again, we have the code of conduct that I believe you know, is a bigger priority than that. And if our target date is 2024, let's give that flexibility of seeing it before us. I would prefer the month of May. So if Councilor Hawes, okay, I'd like to make a friendly amendment for the month of May, and I can support that.
Yeah, I accept that friendly amendment. May is based on this conversation and the budget inflation. I'm totally acceptable to May 2023. Thank you very much.
Okay, so we'll just give administration a minute to capture that. Okay, let's go to Councilor Taylor and then Councilors.
To the CAO, could you explain the cost Like this to me seems like or Mayor Michael said, take a simple boilerplate and stamp town meeting on it. What cost are you talking about?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I, apart from having a legal review of the document, which would be a typical cost, it's the cost of implementing the program. So typically, most of these programs that I'm familiar with, you call a 1-800 number. That's a third party outside your organization where you want to report something, and there's typically a cost to that agency who does receives that complaint and does the investigation. So it's done separately and outside the organization. And so this policy would implement a program that may have a cost attached to it. And that would need to be understood before you create a policy that has a budget implication to it.
Right. Okay, good. Thanks. Didn't know that.
Thank you. So is that in response to that?
Yes.
Okay, Councillor Haas?
Yeah, if I may too, and I overlooked, but on page 120 of 131, in the parkland example, and I agree with that, is there is options, I believe, reading this, that you could make the call to the organization directly, but if you're worried about any reprisal, any retaliation whatsoever, they have a third party unanimous HR service that they call to report any misdoings or whatever. So that would be that additional cost to Councilor Taylor that she's talking to. So thank you.
Thank you. Go to Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To CAO, do we have something in place that's successful that encourages people, our employees, to step forward and without fear of reprisal? Or do we have that in our organization?
So Chair, yes, we have both through our health and safety program, particularly with all of the, whether it's harassment, that kind of thing. I mean, we do have protocols, policies, directives, and procedures that we have systems for that. It's also with safety in general, and there's also protocols through our human resources. Certainly, there's other categories listed in here, whether you think someone's stolen something or that sort of thing. There is a process to talk to your supervisor about that or talk to someone else about that. But if there's a sense that people can't talk to anyone internally, this program would be would solve that problem. But for sure, we have anything health, safety related, HR related, and we have systems in place for financial signatures, things like that, where we try to mitigate the risk of having those kinds of things happen in the organization, but it's not foolproof, I'm sure.
But it is successful and it's working for our employees.
We have employees using our systems, yes.
Okay, thank you.
So before I go to Councillor Haas, if I could expand on that a little bit with an additional question to interim CEO Howell. Regarding the way the MGA is constructed in regards to the role that the CAO plays as the intermediary bottleneck between council and administration, if the concern regarding potential wrongdoing has to do with the CAO, there currently, to my understanding, is no avenue that somebody who's under the CAO can take their concerns to council, because there isn't supposed to be that direct line of communication between anyone other than the chief administrative officer and council. So could you speak to that? Is there a mechanism that's available currently?
Thank you. I'm not aware of one. I'm not sure what your personnel committee, what latitudes your personnel committee has to sort of manage that or invite those kinds of complaints or concerns to come forward. And I'm not sure, Ms. Randall, do you know legislatively how that would work?
In your committee that you have, your CAO oversight.
That's the one, yeah.
Yeah, maybe if it's in there. because in the Kia also, like HR also sits on that committee. So maybe that would be an avenue to bring it forward also.
I appreciate that. To my knowledge, I sit on a committee, and to my knowledge, there's no mechanism in there that allows anyone from administration to report something to that committee. So it's just something to think about, a consideration as we talk about this moving forward. To Councillor Haas?
Yeah, and I appreciate this conversation. This was part of why I brought this forward, and it's not just this is part of that bottleneck communication between administration to CEO to council. And it may not be our organization, but it is the potential is there that it could be something going on at that bottleneck there and there is no avenue to report that. If the CEO has done anything, currently administration is not able to come to council and share that. It all goes through the CEO. And so if the CEO chooses not to, and I'm not saying our CEO has done that, I'm just saying that other organizations have seen this. This is a way to protect an organization that way. And I think that's reasonable. I mean, we as a council are held responsible with our code of conduct. And so this is an opportunity to also have that accountability. And it gives the administration that voice that they may not feel they can in that power difference. So I just think this is good business. I think it's an opportunity. And as Councillor Lagoon mentioned in his comments, that this is not something that's new to organizations, large organizations. I work for a large organization. We have one. I know many other corporations that have exactly the same policies in place for this reason. So I just think it's good practice, and a lot of municipalities are seeing the same and the need for it. So thank you.
Councillor Haas, Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir. I just quickly have to say, I do support this. I think it's something that we do need. We need it sooner rather than later. So I support it. I do not support that date. That date, that's too long, too far away. People are our assets. People who work here are our assets. So that date, too far off. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council? Okay, seeing nothing further, we will call to question the committee direct administration to bring forward a draft whistleblower policy before the end of May 2023. All those in favor? Opposed? And that is carried. Oh, sorry. Yes, Councillor Lagoon, how did you vote on that? Put your hand up.
I voted in favor, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so that was carried 6-1. Councillor Haas.
I just want to thank council for engaging in this conversation. Appreciate it, and thank you for the support of it. And I really like this process of being able through agenda committee to get it on the agenda. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Haas. If there's nothing further on the whistleblower policy, we'll move on. Information items, none this week. That brings us to council reporting. So we'll start down there at the end with Councillor Race, because I know she likes going first.
I have nothing to report. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, only thing to report was had a meeting, the senior members of the youth council the other night, just preparing for moving forward with the, we have a meeting on Thursday with the youth. Just, strategically thinking, how do we set these youth up for success? And, we got a great team. And I have to say to administration, thank you to Heather Mark, who's I'm going to feel very pivotal, even though we've got quite a few members there. We also talked about, we've got quite a few senior members, adults at the table. So we consciously spoke to that, and that we have to be careful that this is for the youth and not for us. So managing that, and Heather, I feel, is going to do a great job of that. And so we're going to have our meeting on Tuesday or Thursday of this week and start to actually strategically think of what does the group want to do moving forward. So we have things to work on. So really excited about that. And that's all I report. Thank you.
Councillor Hawes, Mayor Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No official committees. I do want to thank Yellowhead County for meeting with us last week. It was for the public, a meet and greet for their new council. We're looking forward to an early spring, more formal meeting with an agenda and topics that, certain things came up even tonight to discuss with the county. I had the privilege to be at the Cal4X Cup at the Hinton Nordic Center this past weekend. Great turnout, great racing, a lot of people from all over Alberta. So that was nice to see in the community, and that's all, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Mayor Michaels, Councillor LaBerge.
Nothing to report. A nice quiet week, thankfully.
Thank you, Councillor LaBerge. Councillor Taylor.
I might lose one of my part-time jobs, so I'll be able to concentrate more effort on council, more research, more study, more participation. Thank you, nothing else.
That's great news. Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And I have nothing to report. So that brings us to. Right. Oh, right. Sorry. My apologies. I keep forgetting. Sorry, Ryan. I tell you to throw something at me, but you can't even do that.
Councillor, thank you, Mr. Chair, and nothing to report.
Excellent.
Outstanding.
Thank you. Nice comeback.
All right, so now I'm pretty sure that brings us to urgent matters. Are there any urgent matters this week? Okay, seeing none, Chief Administrative Officer reporting. Interim CEO Howell.
I have nothing to report this evening.
Okay, no status report either?
No.
Okay, Legislative Services update.
I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Rendell. Executive Assistant Logistics information.
I have nothing.
Okay, good enough. Okay, that brings us to the closed session item for today's meeting. Council, we would need a motion. Mayor Michaels.
I'll make the motion to go into closed session.
Okay, Mayor Michaels has moved to move into closed session. Council, any discussion? Oh, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Council, we are now reconvened out of closed session. Council, anything, comments, questions? Mayor Michaels.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to put forward a direction, the committee direct administration to advise the proponent of what was discussed in closed session regarding the Hinton Golf Course lands memorandum of understanding and bring back further information and recommendations to council on December 21st, 2021.
Thank you, Mayor Michaels. Do you want to speak to it? Okay. To administration, if we could just see the proposed direction. Michaels, if you want to just have a look at that, make sure that it's captured correctly.
That's good, thank you.
Okay, council, any comments, questions, or discussion on the proposed direction? Okay, seeing none, We'll call to question the direction the committee direct administration to advise the proponent of what was discussed in closed session regarding the Hinton Golf Course lands. Memorandum of understanding and bring back further information and recommendations to council on December 21st, 2021. All those in favor, please indicate. Opposed? And that was carried unanimously. Thank you. Council, and Michaels?
We'll go in closed session.
Okay, motion to go back into closed session. Council, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried unanimously.
Thank you.
Okay.
Abstain.